First, we have to make some motions. I don't think we have to vote on the automatically board members because everyone is present. We do need to make a motion about public comment time limitations. The ARB needs to determine how long each member of the public will be able to speak during the public comment period. The public will be allowed to comment after consent agenda items and after each action item is standard ARB practice. Is there a motion? Mr. Dane.
Mr. Chairman, I move that each member of the public have 3 minutes to speak.
Is there a second?
Seconded.
Seconded by Mr. Burns. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? Any abstentions? Members of the public will have 3 minutes to speak after each consent and action item on the agenda. This meeting is being recorded, and the recording will be posted online within 10 days. I will read our statement of purpose and intent of historic overlay districts. It's our standard practice to begin meetings. Historic overlay districts are created for the purpose of promoting the general welfare, education, economic prosperity, and recreational pleasure of the public, perpetuation of those general areas or individual structures and premises that have been officially designated by the Board of Supervisors as having historical, cultural, architectural, or archaeological significance. Regulations within such districts are intended to promote against destruction of, encroachment upon such areas, structures, and premises, to encourage uses which will lead to their continuance, conservation, and improvement in a manner appropriate to the preservation of the cultural, social, economic, political, architectural, or archaeological heritage of the county, to prevent creation of environmental influences adverse to such purposes, and to assure that new structures and uses within such districts will be in keeping with the character to be preserved and enhanced. Next, we need to approve our agenda, and I would accept any motions to either adopt the agenda or to amend the agenda. Mr. Dan.
Mr. Chairman, I move the ARB modify the agenda for the April 9, 2026 meeting to move ARB 2026 MB 00015, special permit amendment for the Civic Association of Holland Hills Recreation Facilities located at 1601 Fall Spring Road, Alexandria, tax map numbers 093405A and 03405A1 from the consent calendar to action item number 1, sliding all other items backwards for the agenda for discussion.
Is there a second? Mr. Burns, seconds. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? Any abstentions? We have an agenda as amended. Applicants, I would ask you to please limit project presentations to 8 minutes for our first submission, 3 minutes to a resubmission, focusing on what has changed since the last time you presented to the board. Mary Catherine, do we have any guests to introduce? All right. So that brings us to consent calendar action items. Our first consent item then will be ARB 2026 SU 00011, placement sign for the Sully Historic Site Welcome Center located at 3642 Historic Sully Way in Chantilly. The applicant proposes replacing the existing wall sign with a new sign. Is there any member of the public that wishes to comment on this consent action item? Yes.
Everyone, my name is Matthew Galani. I'm the site manager at Sully Historic Site. Just a bit of context, this sign is about half a mile out from the park itself. And it's currently the sign we're looking to replace is on our visitor center. The new sign is going to be the exact same in dimension. The real reason we're kind of replacing it is just for general maintenance. The older one is acrylic, has some cracking loss, and the new one is going to have sort of a more simple design that just says Sully Historic Site Welcome Center, make it easier for visitors to see and just freshen it up.
Thank you very much. Anyone else wish to comment on this? Okay. If there's no discussion from board members, I would welcome a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I move that the ARB approve consent item ARB 2026 SU 00011 located at 3642 Historic Sully Way, Chantilly, tax map 0342010014 in the Sully Historic Overlay District for the proposed replacement of the one wall mounted sign. As submitted and presented at the April 9, 2026 ARB meeting, the applicant must request an amendment from the ARB for any proposed design changes to ARB 2026 SU 00011 as approved by the ARB on the April 9, 2026 meeting. Upon review of the materials, the proposal is found to meet the requirements zoning ordinance 3101 historic overlay districts. All work must substantially conform to the work shown in the application materials and approved by the ARB.
Thank you, Mr. Daniel. Is there a second? Ms. Orr seconds. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Any abstentions?
I do think.
Mr. Penny abstains. So that motion passes 6 in favor, 0 against, 1 abstention. Yes, I know. Thank you very much.
Was it 7 in favor?
7-1.
6 in, or yes, oh yes, Ms. Hammock joined us. Yes, 7 in favor. How are you? 7 in favor and 1 abstention. Yes. Thank you. That brings us into our action items. First action item will now be ARB 2026 MV 00015 special permit amendment for the Civic Association of Holland Hills recreational facilities located at 1601 Fall Spring Road. The applicant is proposing amendments to conditions and terms governing the recreational facilities under previous permit amendment SPA 68-V-AA3-03. Are you Mr. Schulke?
I am.
All right, thank you, sir. Before you get started,
Sure.
I'm going to have to ask Mr. Burns to read a statement that he has prepared.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I, John Burns, declare my personal interest in transactions brought before the Architectural Review Board involving the Holland Hills Historic Overlay District and specifically state the following for the April 9th, 2026 ARB meeting. Although it is the opinion of the county attorney's office that I'm not legally required to make a formal disclosure statement, I am making this statement regarding action items ARB 2026 MV 0013 and ARB 2026 MV 00015 in the interest of transparency and to avoid even the appearance of a conflict of interest. I own or reside a home in the Holland Hills HOD. The properties under consideration tonight are not adjacent to or visible from my property. I have not worked with or received a gift or benefit from anyone associated with these projects. Accordingly, I am able to participate in the transactions fairly, objectively, and in the public interest. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Burns. Mr. Schulke, you have the floor.
All right. So I'm Dan. I'm on the board of directors for the Civic Association of Holland Hills. I am also the lucky volunteer who has chosen to present all of our permitting associated stuff for this process. So if we can go to the next slide, please. So we've submitted a special permit application amendment for our existing tennis courts, pickleball courts, and pool. This is a recreational facility for Holland Hills residents primarily, and then it's open to other members as well. So the goal here was to amend the conditions of the special permit to come into line with how the club has been under operation and also to meet some, so to bring us into compliance and also to work on a balance between the interests of affected neighbors, particularly with respect to the pickleball court, lights and noise, and while kind of retaining the recreational value of that facility. So we've had a lot of community feedback over the last year. This process probably dates back to at least December of 2024. We've had a lot of community discussion. We've conducted multiple surveys, and we've come to the end of the road here with this framework, we hope. So next slide, please. All right, so as an example of some of the items we proposed.
Yeah, that is fun.
All right, so in the special permit amendment, we proposed the following things. This is an excerpt, so it's not the full conditions. It's an increase in the allowable membership numbers to reflect the kind of joint membership of both recreational facilities. So it's pickleball, tennis, and pool. That's a total of 650 total for both facilities, which is an increase from the currently allotted 350 family household memberships. We're proposing to reduce hours of play for pickleball, in particular to kind of reduce the impact of light and noise on neighbors who are on kind of adjoining streets or kind of within visual and audible distance of the pickleball facility. So in general, those are seasonally adjusted weekday hours that end approximately at sunset. I can pull the exact hours if we need to. And then on weekend play, it ends at 3 p.m. There's some inclusion of special events for both pool and pickleball and tennis facilities. So I think there's 4 or 5 for each, respectively. And lastly, along the way in this journey, we discovered that the rear tennis courts which had previously been within a special permit amendment and are on a separate piece of property, so that's the A1 plat, had disappeared from the special permit amendment. And so we are proposing to add those back into the special permit. Courts didn't go anywhere. They continue to exist. So we just want to put them back on paper. And next slide, please. All right, so in order to help mitigate some of the sound and light challenges we've been struggling with while maintaining the kind of value of the facility and the club, continuing to implement these reduced hours on weekdays. So these are already in place. They're going to continue to be in place, and we've proposed to implement them in the special permit amendment. That's weekends and weekdays. We're working through currently a quiet paddle requirement. So that will be to require quiet paddles for people who are playing at the facility and potentially providing loaner paddles for people who do not have their own. And then we're not requiring quiet balls, which are a whole other category of items, but we are potentially exploring using quieter balls. So they're kind of still professional balls, but allegedly quieter, according to people who have done some testing on this. And next slide. So this is just some history of kind of how we got here a little bit. So back in 2023, the lights were installed. We had received some complaints about light pollution. We had a memo to endorse the special permit application to bring the lights, to get permitting for the lights and to include them in the special permit. During that process, light shields were installed. So there's 4 light shields. I think I have photos of them on the next slide, but there's 2. So they're on the Fort Hunt side, which is the, oh, it always messes me up, the east side of the property. The light shields are facing toward the west to block light to the west on Ripon Road. And then on the Ripon Road side, the shields are on the back of the lights to protect light from Ripon Road. The lights were then approved in September 23, I believe. I've got this timeline correct. And then I think there was a DCC complaint and then maybe some more presentations. The timeline is hard to follow. I wasn't here. I'm sorry. We have kind of new complaints as of last fall regarding lights and noise. So that's how we got to here into this process and working through the special permit amendment. So I think the last slides are just pictures of the, so these are the light shields on the Fort Hunt side. So Fort Hunt is to the east, and then Ripon Road is to the west. So those shields are on the west side. And then the next slide is pictures of the kind of Ripon Road, Paul Spring light shields. And only one of the photos made it in, sorry. But that's what they look like as a representation with the shields on the back side of these lights. I think that's all I have. There are other photos in here from the staff special permit amendment from 2023. So these are staff photos from the set. I think that's it. Any questions?
Okay, thank you. Any members of the public wish to comment?
You received public comment.
Yeah, I know we received written public comments. I just wanted to make sure there's any here. So members of the board, you should be aware of the public comments that we received that were placed in the Ignite file for review. Now, since there's no one here right now who wishes to speak, I'll turn it over to members of the board for any questions or comments. Mr. Plumbee.
Sure. Why was the quiet balls not considered? You were saying you're exploring that. Why not? I'm reading online why you should do that.
Yeah. So the general feedback we received about, so again, we've been kind of working on what is essentially a compromise position. We think we're a little proud of it, but it's a compromise position between kind of what kind of a competitive pickleball player might want, for example, versus what is kind of more appropriate for a residential area. And so the quiet balls would be, as it was described to us, kind of fundamentally change the nature of the sport, whereas the quiet paddles aren't quite so, they don't affect the nature of the play quite so much. They're not necessarily as effective in reducing some of the sound mitigation problems. The quiet paddles, as opposed to the quiet balls, I mean. Like the balls are more effective at reducing sound, and the paddles are less so. So what we had heard, though, from there's a number of clubs that are experimenting with sound testers and things like that. So it was recently discovered this quieter ball that's not a quiet ball. So that's what we're exploring. And I think the reason we didn't pursue the quiet balls at this time in this compromise was just that it was probably going to be too far. We're trying to kind of hit in the middle of all the associated parties.
So you're doing the quiet paddles for sure.
We're implementing it through an internal mandate, not through the special permit specifically.
Okay, gotcha. But then the balls may come into play as.
If the problem is, I would say that
Fish will find.
if the neighborhood continues to be unhappy with the state of affairs, that more difficult and contentious discussions will be ahead, I suspect.
Thank you. Thanks.
Ms. Ham.
So as a board, we waited on the 2023 special permit. Is this all kind of the root problem that pickleball is louder than tennis? Because they've been tennis courts here for decades.
Yeah.
It's not like a new situation.
Right.
I suspect that's the case, yes. And I think it's a combination, I suspect, of light and noise that, yeah.
But the light has also been here for decades. Pre-2023, how was the lighting different?
Yeah, I wish I had lived here then. So what I can say is that I think the lights at that point were, I think if I had read, they were 7 feet high, maybe, or like 10 feet high and not 30 feet high. And so currently they're 30-foot tall lights that kind of then ended up getting approved through the variance and this ARB board and that whole process. So those 30-foot high lights are approved under, at least the two that are in the right of way, I think, on the Fort Hunt side of the way are on a variance, and then the other two might be approved.
And Mr. Plumpy, maybe you can weigh in on this because I know you're well versed in lighting. Like, has the color and of those lights changed or the tone,
I'm
tonality?
not quite certain, but I would say probably for the LED lights, that's what's there now. Hopefully they are 2,600 or so Kelvin level, temperature level. Prior to it was probably metal halide, because that was probably it. I do respect that the shields are there. I'm just wondering, I know you just had the shields on the back side of the light. Why not? Have you had a photometric study done of where the spillover is and so forth from a professional lighting engineer?
There were some files I was reviewing beforehand from the 2023 process where there was some suggestion that, adding the shields on the back of the lights and the front of the lights might change the kind of the nature of how it falls. I think the other fundamental problem is some of the geographic situation of this facility, which is essentially a basin, and then there's like hills, Holland Hills. So up on Martha's, you can see down into the courts.
I see, which you can see the lights reflectivity during the nighttime and so forth. And
Well, if you don't mind, let me ask, because I want to make sure I understood the presentation.
Yeah.
As I understand the hours that are being implemented during the week,
Yeah.
it's sunsets the cutoff.
Essentially,
And during the
it's-
weekend, it's roughly 3 p.m.
Yeah.
I'm asking for an exact time. So my question is then, if sunset's the cutoff, my guess is then, are the lights turned off then when people are playing?
For the most part, the lights will be off as long as play ends at sunset. And
And then on the
There are-
weekends,
they won't-
probably there's not even need for them if it's cut off at 3 p.m.
Okay,
And I
so-
think the only other exception would be special events, of which there are a limited number per year proposed. in special events.
Considering sunset is probably pushing 9 o'clock during the peak summer months, that this will be used perhaps. Any consideration of, say 7 p.m. period they're closed?
Mhm.
Just thinking out loud.
Yeah, so the hours are, let's see, so for March, I think March ended our 6 p.m. time, and I think now we're at 8.
We're at 8 p.m.
Yeah, I think we're at 8 p.m. for the next 2 months, and then we might go to 9 p.m., which aligns with our associated pool closure, which is at the kind of adjacent facility. So the pool will be open until 9 or 10, closes up until 10, and then the pickleball facility will also be open at that time.
Is there any landscaping that could help muffle the sound?
Sure there is, but it sounds like they're in a rock and hard place because it's, you could put dense vegetation around it like evergreen trees or something. Maybe in 10, 15 years it'll help, but not initially.
Pickleball will be out.
That's right. We'll be doing frisbee golf in its place.
I think I think the other complication is that it crosses over a stream, and so the stream is kind of an open vegetation area. It's also a lot of invasive vines and plants and dead trees, and so that area will take some time to rehab and obviously a lot of money. So there have been evergreen plantings put in along the Ripon Road west side of the facility, but again, they're 3-foot tall arborvitae that are going to take quite some time.
So, can I just ask one real quick question? Since the houses that are affected by the lights are up on the top hill of the hill, is that what you're saying?
There's some that are kind of directly across the stream.
Okay.
I don't have the distance in mind, sorry, but it's a little elevated, so you can kind of see, they kind of come right over the top in line with the lights. There's a second level about another maybe 100 feet in elevation up of a second set of houses that
Yeah,
can see straight down over the trees.
From a landscape standpoint, ideally, the planting would be planted on their property because that would give the immediate effect. Not to say that the association needs to do that, but as the homeowners themselves kind of looked into that for their own sake, unfortunately,
I would hope so.
thank you.
Mr. Petty.
Just to clarify something in your presentation, you said you placed the shields on the lights after you had received complaints. But I think you said that after you placed the shields, you still received complaints.
Yes. So the shields have been in place since 2023.
Oh, okay.
Mr. Dan.
So in the materials you submitted, it says that 85% of the members are from either Holland Hills, Fort Hunt, or Alexandria. How many of the members for the pickleball courts are from Holland Hills?
It's about 6%.
6, you said?
Yeah, 6 or 8 of the
So
family household memberships.
The majority of the people that are playing at these do not reside in the HOD that we're here for.
Yes. And majority would be,
That to me is, I'm trying to balance the fact that I want to make sure there's recreational space provided, but since this is, in my mind, supposed to be a recreational space that is meant to serve at least to a significant portion of the HOD that we're here to oversee, the fact that very little of that community is using it, but yet that's the community being affected the most by the sound and light concerns. That's kind of, to me, a bit of an imbalance here. And
I think you can see where we end up kind of having these situations. I think we are trying to, we've established, so as part of the 325 member cap for the pickleball and tennis facility, we're setting an internal, we've kind of established an internal limit, and I think it's up to 275 with then 25% Holland Hills membership, it can go up to 300, and then with 50% Holland Hills membership, it can go up to 350. So we're trying to increase the membership within Holland Hills. I think it could be a tough battle. We've had a lot of, I guess I would say drama over this all, and I think it's created some tension. And I don't know how you get recognized, Frank, and if you can be, but Frank is our president of our Civic Association Board of Directors. If you would like to recognize him.
Mr. Chairman.
Yeah.
Thank you for receiving us. May I say on behalf of our pickleball and tennis committee, they are trying as hard as they can to increase the community component because we want this to be a community amenity, a true community amenity. But both our pool and our pickleball clubs do rely on significant, what he said, offshore support. Thank you, sir.
Yeah.
Sir, could you introduce yourself for the record?
Yes, I'm Frank Collins. I'm the Accidental Civic Association Prez of Holland Hills.
Thank you.
I'm less concerned, I think, about the lights, because I assume the pool's been there for a while. I assume the pool has lights and the pool.
Not necessarily. Code-wise, you gotta have it lit up at 30-foot candles, which is greater than.
There's smaller lights. I think,
Yeah.
I don't have the measurements in the various reports or whatever, but
Yeah.
they're approximately maybe 12 feet high, I would guess.
Okay, and then there's light and it's open. I'm a little more concerned, I guess, about the noise, just because I'm familiar with pickleball. I know how loud it can be. We got a few letters of people who complained. Yeah, that's okay. Yeah. The process. Have you had, it sounds like there's been a process and a negotiation and compromise. What does that look like? Have there been meetings, or have you gotten written feedback from folks? What does that look like?
Yeah, so we've had, it feels like countless meetings. But we exchanged a lot of emails last year. We had, at least, this came up at 2 or 3 kind of full Civic Association membership meetings. We had a special event meeting on it. And then we also solicited feedback on the framework that we're proposing in the special permit. So that whole framework, we released it to the community, our draft framework. We got comments from both members of the pickleball and tennis club, members of the pool, and members of the community on the acceptability of that framework. I think we've reached a little bit of a kind of a middle ground. I think the challenge will be seeing, we haven't implemented it in full yet. So the quiet paddles piece is still incoming. It's been, a bit of time, and I think we'll have to see how that goes and adapt from there. I think the opinions of Holland Hills residents in particular on pickleball are at this point kind of, we hope they get better. And I think that would be ideal. So we're going to try to do that. I think if we needed to have a broader community discussion about whether that is part of the Holland Hills kind of experiment is another question for us as a board to deal with if we're not dealing with it here.
I guess the only thing I would remind my board members of, which they don't like me saying always, is that I want to try to be as consistent as we can be. So I would remind the board of our prior actions on this type of proposal, and just to keep that in mind. But I think Mr. Plumpy and then Mr. Daniel had something, and then obviously, and then Mr. Burns, and I'll recognize anybody else who has something to say. But Mr. Plumpy, then Mr. Daniel, then Mr. Burns.
Okay, thank you. I'm trying to look at the site plan. I'm sorry, I didn't have before I make a statement. Is that right now you take in revenue, right, for the memberships? How much, do you mind if I ask, if you want to share, how much do you make a year?
I wish I knew that number off the top of my head.
Okay.
Christine, you might know the number off the top of your head.
I don't know it off the top of my head.
Let's say it says, would you ever consider over time when you have enough funds accumulated? And again, let's just look at the site plan. It may be obtrusive what I'm not ready to say here. Would you ever think of covering, doing a dome, like a covering over the pickle courts to mitigate the noise? I don't.
Like a large cloche. Just kind of put it on
Excuse
top.
me?
Like a cloche.
Yeah, pretty much, yes. Yeah.
We've
Like you said it in DC and so forth. That's what I'm just saying.
So we've explored some sound mitigation measures. I think we haven't talked about kind of specifically putting it within kind of the public dome. We had explored sound baffling, and given the geographic location of the site, the report on the sound baffling was mixed, that it would probably not work.
Mr. Daniel, then Mr. Burns, then Ms. Hammond.
So in here, obviously, you have a pool management company that runs the pool.
Yeah.
You gotta have someone who checks chemicals, lifeguards, things like that. I get that. And at a pool, lifeguard's the law. My son knows that very well. When he does things that are wrong, he gets kicked out, he gets managed. But I see with the pickleball courts, it's volunteer. And this is really a social engineering problem we're dealing with here. And I think one of my other concerns is if it's being policed voluntarily by the individuals that are using the facility, then that is probably another factor that gives me pause. If you had a more stricter management, then perhaps some of the issues that we saw in the public comments and that just generally with sports activities might be better mitigated than just we hope in good faith that everyone is going to keep an eye. I'm not saying that people aren't, but that is another factor to keep in mind there, because when the lifeguard kicks you out of the pool, the question is, I don't think that happens when someone decides they want to keep playing, at the pickleball court when they're supposed to not to, and things like that. So that's another factor that I think if this is something that's generating revenue, I think management might be better to extend to everything as opposed to just one component.
Yeah.
And that lifts the burden off volunteers who also are likely enjoying the space and are protective of it. So then you're putting it in the hands of somebody who is trying to be more impartial, even though you may be trying to do it as volunteer anyways.
Certainly acknowledged. I think that's a very fair point. We have not explored that. I think the volunteer runners of the club currently are trying very hard to kind of adhere membership to the hours. I think I had heard an anecdote the other day that somebody had been playing after hours and they went and kind of shut it down right away. So there is some enforcement going on. I think the question of quiet paddles, that will be a different enforcement challenge that we're going to have to try and tackle, but I acknowledge and appreciate the comment about a management company for it.
Mr. Burns, then Ms. Hammond.
Yeah, I have actually a couple of questions, procedural for us. We have dealt with sports courts in historic overlay districts before, and we have discovered that they are problematic, as you're well aware, and contentious, and I don't think they're easy solutions. You had mentioned that there are baffles to prevent light spillover, but in the photographs that were in the record that we reviewed, they don't seem to be effective. There's one photograph taken from Marine Drive, which is across Fort Hunt Road, and it looks like the light is aimed right at you, or right at the camera. And so my question is, how are those baffles monitored? And have you, somebody mentioned a photomic study of light spillover outside of the pickleball courts? I mean, is that from?
The one on the left looks like it's,
The left is from Florida.
Yeah. Not the street light, but that, the white light.
Yeah.
Yeah. Joe, you were asking about color temperature?
Yeah, that's like a 4,000.
Bright, white,
It's like a 4,000
kind of a light. I think changing the color temperature of the bulbs would help.
That would help, number one. And I think
Yeah.
even have right now, you just have one shroud on the back. Maybe you put 3 shrouds or even 4 shrouds on it. So it's kind of literally channelizing it.
yeah,
That's
I
where
think
you're gonna get a professional lighting photometric engineer out there to help you out.
that would probably be a great idea.
I think
We
that-
can explore that. I think there is now, doesn't look like in that photo, so there's not necessarily light baffling. So we have the shields. The problem is that particular light looks like it's the one on the Ripon Road screen side. And the shield on that one is on the back. So it's blocking the light to Ripon Road, but not.
Fairfax County has fairly rigid requirements for light spillover
Right.
onto adjacent properties. This isn't just an adjacent property, it's across the street
Yeah.
and on an adjacent property, and it's very obviously spilling light. So that's a concern I would have. Also, you had mentioned in your presentation that this went from 350 families to 650 families. And nobody's mentioned yet the intensity of use changing significantly with the introduction of the activity of pickleball in place of the tennis courts. And so I think that that's a serious concern that I haven't seen mentioned from the community yet. I'm thinking about all the extra cars that come with that.
Yeah, so
It's a relatively modest parking lot, and you're proposing to reduce the required number of parking spaces. Now, how is that all going to work out? That's a rhetorical question, because I know that you can't answer it right now. So those are the concerns that I have about it. Then my procedural question for us, that is the ARB, is what are we being asked to approve here? Are we approving as all the hours and intentions that are listed here? Are we endorsing those? Are we saying the ARB approves you trying to do something? I mean, what is it, if we vote to affirm this, what is it we're agreeing to? What is it we are approving?
We're making a recommendation regarding what has been submitted, either recommending in support or against,
Or with mine.
or with
And
modification,
the
or with.
permit is asking,
And I would point out that they're allowed to have, the court right now, and people are allowed to use it right now. So
but what
I
is
think
the
if we don't,
permit explicitly for?
Is it
The
just,
lighting, the usage, the parking.
or just to add the one extra court?
I don't think it's just the one extra.
So the,
And what's the wording of the permit if it were approved today?
sure. So the statement of justification we submitted for our special permit amendment includes some of the following terms. Actually, I can just go ahead and read them off for you if that's acceptable. So we've got the request to increase the number of family household memberships to approximately, so 325, 650, right? The reason for that, and Mr. Burns, just to answer the question, is that that is not an increase over current use. And I think that was part of the problem that we discovered upon, working through all of this last year. There was a misunderstanding about how the last special permit would apply. We had questions as the board, and we went in to investigate that, and it turned out that we were massively out of compliance. So that's when we began this process, we had received a TCC complaint, and so we went through the process of modifying the number of memberships in this special permit. It's not technically an increase over current operations, it's just modifying the existing condition to reflect what we're currently doing. With respect to the parking spaces, we did remove those 3. That is in here. It's one of the terms, and the idea for removing those 3 parking spaces was actually so that we could have we could have food trucks come in for our special events. We had a problem where we were licensed or zoned for 66, I think, in the last special permit. And so we wanted to remove 3 so that we could have food trucks there. Not that we're removing those parking spaces. We're only required to have something like 48 based on the use of the pool and the tennis and pickleball facility. So those 3 parking spaces, at least we would be within compliance, I understand, of the zoning ordinance for parking spaces at recreational facilities. We also wanted to remove the name of there was a fictitious name associated with the previous special permit, which led to some of the confusion. We've removed that fictitious name at the state level, and so now we're seeking to remove it within the special permit itself. And then amending the conditions of the permit, so that has hours of operation, the seasonal hours I discussed, ending at 3 p.m. on weekends, 5 after-hour events for pickleball and tennis, special events, and then I think there's also 5 or 7 for the
5
pool.
special events over what? And
Over a year.
monthly and.
Over a year. Yeah, so 7 after-hour special events for the pool, and then 5 for the pickleball and tennis facility per calendar year. And the special events for pickleball and tennis can only run until 9 p.m. And for the pool, they run until 10, but have to end promptly at 10 p.m.
Mr. Burns may still have.
Yeah. Are you done, Jen? Or do you have more?
Yeah, I think that answers my question, but I'm still concerned because you said we need to be consistent in our approvals. And I don't think that we normally approve things that have stated intentions to do something in them.
I don't think that that's necessarily true. I think where I'm going is that what I think they're asking us here is actually to put some guardrails that I'm not sure are there right now. Like I need to look at the special permit language that's there now, but I don't know that the hours are as limited as they are right now, for example, in the current language that's in there versus what they're proposing now. That might be more beneficial what they're proposing now versus what's there, right?
Current language is 9 to 9.
Yeah, so it's 9 to 9 now. It's 9 p.m. only a couple months out of the year. The rest of the time, it's going to be either 7 o'clock or 8 o'clock, and it's 3 o'clock on weekends. My concern is, if I were a homeowner, I don't want those bright lights shining in my house at, 11 o'clock at midnight when I'm trying to go to sleep, right? But if it's going to be out by 7, 8, 9 o'clock, I think that's a big difference. So that's kind of what I was getting at, is trying to figure out if what's actually being proposed now might be more beneficial to the community than what's the current language that's in there. That was kind of my, but I don't know if that leads to any more comments or questions.
No, it's just one final observation is that the 3 letters that we received from members of the community, the Holland Hills community, the pickleball community, indicate to me that there's not firm consensus among all parties that this is the resolution that will ultimately be the final resolution of the differing issues that you're struggling with.
Yeah, I think a little hypothetical for me that I'm trying to contemplate how to respond to that. I would say that we are as in lockstep as we have been over the last 15 months between the kind of the pickleball and tennis committee of the association, the board of directors, and the community, I would say. I think we are closer than we were at any point last year. I think we're hoping to continue to make progress, but I do think there will potentially continue to be concern on both sides. As I said, this is a compromise.
Yeah, I live in the community, so I agree. Progress, you're making progress, but I also agree with Mr. Daniel that I see a social conflict problem coming up when volunteer policing of, was it 92 to 94% non-residents?
Yeah, so it's
going to be a difficult thing to resolve that against community concerns. That is neighborhood concerns.
9% Holland Hills.
Well, whatever, 90%, let's just say.
So I think I might be in the minority, but I don't care how many people from Holland Hills use the tennis court or how many people outside of this court. And I don't think that's something that we should be weighing in on. It's not under our purview. I don't care how you fund it. I don't care how you police it. That's a neighborhood problem. That's not for the architecture review board. I am concerned with your lighting, and I would like to see a lighting study, which I think is reasonable. I'm kind of surprised that it's not what you led with. This has been a tennis court since 1954. Anyone that's purchased a property in the past 50 plus years knows they purchased next to a tennis court. So it's not like a new clubhouse that's been built. So I have less sympathy for people that are upset that they live near a tennis court. Like, I'm trying to wrap my head around that. Like, obviously, like, lighting technology changes. Pickleball is a more popular, it's not a new sport. It's probably very popular in the 50s. But so anyway, so I think we should take no action and ask for a lighting study.
And I'm sorry to interrupt. Mary Catherine, can I ask on that? Because I think I'm having some confusion, and maybe we all are. But is there anything, and maybe Mr. Schulte can answer, I don't know, but is there anything in this special permit language that's being proposed that is specific to the lighting? Because I'm not sure that there's anything
Other than the hours, which are.
other than the hours, right? Yeah, right.
Hours of operation.
Hours of the.
Right. I think we were talking about the memberships, that other court, and the hours. So
I did forget about the tennis court. Apologies for that.
that's okay.
The,
I just want to make sure, because
Yeah.
I understand your concern. I'm not trying to minimize it in
No,
any
no,
way.
I
I just
but
don't
we've
know
been
that
asked
that's
to weigh in on it.
I-
So we want to.
right. But I don't know that we're being asked to weigh in on it tonight on the lighting. I don't think that's part of it.
I think part of the reason I didn't lead with the lights and I didn't lead a study, et cetera, is my understanding was they were already approved, as is, in
Okay.
2023 by this board and in the special permit amendment.
They were retroactively approved by this board
I
because it came
understand
to us
your
after. So I think that needs to be made very clear that this
Yeah.
board accepted it in a situation as is.
Yeah.
So we, again, trying to work in a situation of being, accommodating, things were built. I think we would have not sussed out that conversation with a greater amount of detail. Were this hey, we're building a new pickleball facility, and you would have gotten a lot of these questions that you're hearing now from Ms. Hammock or from Mr. Plumpy are things that would have come up had that gone through the traditional process.
Understood.
I guess my only other question on this, you have your hours of operation that you're going to try to build into the special permit. Does that include explicitly in the at ends of hours of operations, those lights turn off? I mean, it seems implied, but are those lights turning off?
Yeah,
Because-
they're on a timer. That was one of the conditions I put in the last special permit amendment.
All right.
Question. Ms. Orr, and then I know Mr.
fine, that's fine.
as well.
Is there anybody that like organizes? Because I know during a swim meet, you got the other team coming in and there are tons of cars. Are you allowing a special event or, I think John has a point. Where is everybody going to park? If there's an event there, an event at the same time, or
So we
is there
do-
somebody organizing?
Yeah, so I'm on the board. The board has a pool and a pickleball tennis liaison. They also have their own committees that run the facilities and schedule the special events and maintain the operations. It's all volunteer run, except for the pool management company, which we already discussed. For events where there are swim team meets, for example, or days like the July 4th, we have a celebration of the neighborhood. Those are days where we advise and we say don't come to the courts on this day or allow for pool parking. There's going to be a swim meet on this Saturday morning. So this is not the time to park and play pickleball, for example. So we do have coordination between those two committees and we're working to kind of fine tune some of those structures going forward as well.
Hopefully I'm the last one so you can get out of here, but as you said, real quick question is, Fairfax County government, have you looked at what your parking requirements are for large events and normal activities? Because now you've increased the number of active players on a tennis court, you got 2 to 4 players max, right? Now you got, I think, 4 pickleball courts made out of 1 tennis court. And so you, for 8 times or 6, whatever times number of people you have, just if they were just people playing the paddle.
Yeah.
Paddle tennis. So have you checked out with Fairfax County if you're allowed to do all this? Number one, from a parking regulation standpoint, and from these special events, which sounds like they could be a gazillion people there with food trucks and all this other.
Yeah, so there are different kinds of special events. I think there are,
Okay.
but so on the parking piece.
Just on the regular parking, everyday parking.
Regular parking.
With your clubhouse as well, being fully operated. You got pool and
So between the
Unique code.
pool capacity and the per court capacity, I think the number, and I met with the Zed staff the other day, I think the number is somewhere in the middle. For required parking spaces.
Okay, for paddle tennis as opposed to regular tennis.
I believe it's all inclusive, the number of courts.
Okay.
So there's 6 courts there, there's 2 tennis courts, and then there's the capacity of the pool.
Thank you.
Yes, Mr. Daniel.
So I'm just gonna say, and Mary Catherine, it's BZA that's, we would be sending this recommendation to, is it?
Correct.
So that may be something more for folks to think about if we're making a motion here, is we could make a motion to approve with, it says modifications, but it's more like we would be commenting on our recommendation, I think. And the BZA could consider that as part of their process, because they are the ones who ultimately make that decision. So if the ARB was just to point out any concerns, despite the fact that we may be recognizing that this is a constructed facility that is already there, it's not, as I think Ms. Hammock has pointed out, we're not building something at this current juncture. So it's definitely a more a social issue as opposed to a architecture issue. That may be something to think about if someone has a motion, if we want to add any caveats for the BZA to consider.
Any other comments?
I don't know if this is really relevant, but have you considered changing the material on the court?
Any material on the court?
Soft
I don't think we
surface.
have.
Using cushioned acrylic system for pickleball courts.
Interesting.
Reduces.
I was assuming most of the sound was from the, you know,
No, it's like the rubberized surface you're talking about. I like rubberized surface, which.
Yeah. Yeah.
Interesting.
I'm just not very hip on pickleball.
Well, I do think the paddle and the ball make a lot of noise.
Yeah, yeah, no.
Yeah, that's where most of
That's
it.
most of
But
the,
it's
Yeah, yeah. Okay. Does anyone want to volunteer to make a motion of some kind? Mr. Flumpy reluctantly raising his hand.
Yeah, had neck surgery, so it makes it as best I can now. Mr. Chairman, I move that ARB recommend for approval. Is this right?
Action.
Action item, ARB 2026 MV 00015, located at 1601 Fall Spring Road, Alexandria, tax map numbers 093405A and 093405A1, the Holland Hills HOD for the special permit amendment application to change the condition and terms governing its recreational facilities as submitted and presented at the April 9th, 2026 ARB meeting. The applicant must request an amendment from the ARB for any proposed changes to ARB 2026 MV 00015 as recommended for approval by the ARB on April 9th, 2026. Where do I make the, but to the subject to the following modifications, that the association governing body provides a photometric study for the existing light fixtures to have them for appropriate lighting in the courtyard, but also spillover lighting, that it meets jurisdictional requirements and be approved by the association itself. And possibly looking into doing different sound mitigation measures, such as sound pickle quiet balls, in addition to the pickle ball rackets, as well as the surface of the courts to mitigate the noise as much as possible. That's all.
You got another line.
Upon this application, upon review of the materials, the proposal is found to meet the requirements of zoning ordinance 3101 historic overlay districts. All work done and submitted for county review must substantially conform with this work shown in the application materials and approved by the ARB. That's it.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Mr. Burns seconds. Mr. Daniel.
Could we clarify the items that were, so I understand one was photometric analysis to evaluate spillover and
Correct.
compliance with Fairfax County.
Yes.
Second one was emphasizing the various sound mitigation
Yes.
items.
Yes, sir.
Both rackets, balls,
court, and surface.
court. Okay, were those the two?
Yes, sir, sure, yes, sir.
Okay, and I would like to propose a friendly suggestion that it also include a third recommendation that the association consider a management company
Oh, yes.
over volunteers.
Accepted friendly, yes.
Mr. Burns, do you
I
accept that?
accept the amendment to the amendment.
Okay, okay.
And I accept whatever.
All right. We have a motion, a second, as amended in a friendly way by Mr. Daniel. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Any abstentions? Mr. Johnson, do you have what you need? Okay. All right, then that motion carried. Mr. Schulte, thank you for bearing with us.
Good luck. Thank you. Maybe we get free memberships. Joe, being recorded.
All right. That brings us to our next item for action, which is ARB 2026 MV 00013, deck and pavilion located at 7200 Rebecca Drive. The Howland Hills Overlay Historic District, applicant is proposing a new open decking. Ms. Kelly represents the application. Ms. Kelly, good evening.
Good evening. Yes, I'm here to present the pavilion for 7200 Rebecca Drive. We were here a few months ago to present the pavilion and a carport, and we've since removed the carport from the project and we'll be proceeding with the pavilion. And the next slides, please. This shows the existing house and the pavilion at back behind the house. The next slide, please. The next slide shows photos of the existing front of the house. And the next one, please. Coming around the back of the house, the pavilion will be out here. This deck will extend and be attached to the new pavilion. This is the deck that will extend and attach to the pavilion. This is a shot of the existing front of the house. The next slide, please. And some more photos of the rear of the house where the pavilion will be situated. We'll be digging out a little bit since there's a slight slope at the back, so the pavilion will set down into the landscape about 4 feet. And some other photos of the corner of the existing house. And the next slide, please. Some more photos of the front of the house where we were going to put the carport, but that will be done in another phase at another time. The next slide, please. This is taking us into the construction documents. And the next slide, please. The existing house. And the next slide. The existing upper level. And the next slide, please. This is the existing ground floor showing the decks connecting to the new foundation plan of the new pavilion. And the next slide, please. This shows the floor plan of the pavilion. It's constructed of a steel post and composite decking to tie in with the existing deck, has a flat roof and a sunken seating area in the middle. That's showing the flat roof where we have skylights. And the next slide, please. You'll see a little bit of the elevation of the pavilion from looking at the front of the house. And then coming around the side of the house, you'll see the pavilion with the steel posts and the flat roof. And then a section through the pavilion showing the sunken seating area. And the next slide, please. And then from the west side, you can see that it's sunken down into the landscape a bit. We'll have a retaining wall along that side of the pavilion to retain that earth. And then from the north side, you can see again how it's sunken down into that hill in the backyard. And then we have some recessed lighting as well as some sconce lighting. And then the following pages are the framing and construction documents for the pavilion. And I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Ms. Kelly. Any members of the public wish to comment on this one? Okay, members of the board, questions and comments? Ms. Rebecca?
I know that there's a regulation about square footage of earth being moved. We just pull those back.
Yes,
Threshold or-
just slightly, yes.
I may have missed the first presentation. Have there been communication with the neighbors? I mean, it's just
Yes.
a lot of, so, I mean, it's almost the footprint, just eyeballing it, it's almost the footprint of the house.
Yes, we have gone through the DRC review within Holland Hills for the first review. So, and we have met with the neighbors and we have preliminary approval.
Mr. Burns.
Yeah, this, I think last time we presented this, it was both carport and the
Yes.
pavilion. Today you mentioned that the carport is phase 2. So are you still seeking approval of the overall stuff?
No, the carport it'll be at another time.
Okay,
Just
so
today.
this is solely the pavilion,
Correct.
no
yes,
carport,
Correct.
or
yes.
carport.
No carport,
Okay.
yes.
Thank you.
Any other questions, comments from the board? If not, I'd entertain a motion.
Oh my God.
Ms. Hammack?
We're on number 1.
Yes.
Yeah.
Mr. Chairman, I move that ARB approve action item ARB-2026-MV-00013 located at 7200 Rebecca Drive, Alexandria, tax map 093309070022 in the Holland Hills HOD. For the proposed open pavilion and decking, estimated and presented at the April 9th, 2026 ARB meeting. The applicant must request an amendment from the ARB for any proposed changes to ARB-2026-MV-00013 as approved by the ARB on April 9th, 2026. Upon review of the material, the proposal is found to meet the requirements of zoning ordinance 3101-historic overlay districts. Once building permits are issued, all work done must substantially conform with the work shown in the application materials and approved by the ARB.
Thank you, Ms. Hammack. Is there a second?
Second.
Mr. Daniel seconds. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries. Thank you, Ms. Kelly. Have a good evening. Okay, that brings us, I'm going to introduce the next 2 action items together, sir. ARB 2026 SP 00014 revisions to previously approved building plans located at 5640 Ox Road in the St. Mary's Church Historic Overlay District. And also ARB 2026 SP 00016 revisions to the previously approved infill lot grading plan in the St. Mary's Church Historic Overlay Districts for 5640 Ox Road. And Mr. Rahija, you represent the.
Yes, sir. Thank you very much. I'm good. Thank you for having me again. I have a quick favor before I start. My architect couldn't be here in person because of personal reasons to take care of his wife. Is it okay if I give him a call and he listens to on the discussion on my phone in case you guys have any questions? He can also answer them. Would that be okay or no?
By me.
I just don't want to do it without your permission. I tried to access the link actually, and we weren't able to.
You can go. I mean, if that works, that's fine. You can also call into the meeting either way.
Okay, if this doesn't work, then I'll tell you to do that.
Okay.
Or I can just carry it on, and if there's a question that I can follow up, I'm happy to do that as well. Okay, anyways, you didn't pick up, so we'll keep going.
There's a question you can call back.
Thank you for having me again. I think most of you have seen me a few times here during the site plan as well as the building plan. We're heavy into the building phase right now. So some of you that passed 123 probably have seen the structure up now.
I live right there. I've seen it.
Oh, you do? Good. So as we're in the process, we've decided to move into the house to make it our primary house. So with that, there's some changes that we are requesting. I went to the Fairfax County office. I spoke to our site planner as well as our building plan reviewer, and they both supported it, but they said we have to follow the process. And I don't want to be 6 months down the road asking for occupancy and then asking for this change and sort of put ourselves behind 3 or 4 months at that point. So that's the reason I'm here today, requesting for mostly removal of things and then adding anything additional. So if you actually please go to the next slide, there's a very quick agenda. What we're really asking for is removal of items on the site plan as well as on the architecture plan. And I initially submitted only the architecture plan. And I think with your help, you suggested that I should do both together. So in case there is a favorable decision, you wouldn't have to see me again in a month's time. So with that said, we'll just dive right into the agenda items. The next slide, please. The team hasn't changed. Everyone is exactly the same the previous times that I was here. Next slide, please. So the things that we are requesting are hopefully simple. On the site plan, we are requesting to remove the swimming pool that was originally approved. We're also requesting to remove the retaining wall that was associated specifically for the swimming pool. And on the building plan changes, we're requesting to remove the chimneys because we have decided to go with electrical chimneys versus brick and mortar chimneys. And the basement stairs to be widened. If you look at the original plan, they're very narrow. They go through sort of a, I don't know, very claustrophobic little hallway. So that didn't work well for us, especially with my dad being a little bit older. We needed wider, and also it helps with furniture moving. So we'll go to the next slide. The way the slides are set up that we submitted, I try to be as simple as possible for providing what was approved by the team here, as well as Fairfax County, and what we're asking for the change. And I'm so sorry that some of the, you can't read this because I think the pixel sort of got distorted as I copied and pasted, but I did provide all the PDFs alongside. So they're much more clear than the copy and paste that you see in the PowerPoint. So this is for the site plan specifically. And like you said, for the both items, I only have one presentation. So this is the site plan approved page, which shows the swimming pool in the back and then the retaining wall. We are requesting to remove both of those and replace that with a grass lawn, basically, in a nutshell. And this is the approved plan. And if you go to the next slide, it's, this one does not include the pool or the retaining wall. And this is just a flat lawn. And I think we all prefer that as a flat lawn, green lawn in the backside. Any questions on the site plan change?
We'll do it at the end.
Okay, so we'll go to the next slide, which is the approved front and the rear, which includes the 3 fireplaces as shown here. And if you go to the next slide, it removes them from, this is the rear elevation without the chimneys. And then if you go to the next slide, which is the front elevation without the chimneys. I will add one more thing actually while we're here. May I please ask you? Actually, we'll go to the next slide. It's more clear. So this is the chimney removal. And I was requested to add floor plan elevations to show the impact. So the two that are most impacted really are on the exterior sides that you see on the left and the right, and the one is in the interior. So we plan on finishing up the exterior part of the chimneys with the same wall conditions that are adjacent to the chimneys, but on the exterior side. So not really a big change, but if you all have any suggestions or recommendations, I'm happy to take them. We didn't want to go too deep into providing all the site plan changes if you all didn't approve these changes, which was a recommendation I also received from the plan reviewer at the Fairfax County. So which is why what you see here is very simple, but the detail is going to be very simple. It's going to be 2x6 studs with the same wood board that goes on the backside that is on the adjacent walls. So if you go to the next slide for me, please. So this is the staircase that we're requesting to change. If you look at the left side, it's sort of the expanded view. As you can see, the stairs are very narrow. They go through, there's actually a wall, or would have been a wall on the back side, and it makes a very narrow passage. Very, very hard to move things. This is a very practical thing that we saw when we went into the field doing the work. So we changed it, what you will see on the next slide, please. So the stairs now just go straight back up. They're much wider. Rather than having a single door in the back, we have a double door in the back. And I think that's the extent of my presentation.
All right, thank you, sir. Any members of the public wish to comment on this one? Okay, great. Members of the board, questions and comments? Mr. Daniel, sure.
I have no problem with the site plan changes, and stairs make sense. Even the chimneys, that's not what you need. That's not what you need. This property is located very far away from the property in the HOD, and we already went for an extensive design review for it. So I don't see any major issues.
I'd just like to say one
Ms.
thing,
Hammond.
like, I'm not gonna die on a hill for the chimneys, but they are an architectural feature that accents and visually breaks up massing. And it is a grand manor house. So having at least one chimney is in keeping with the style and the massing of the approved design. And when I look at the two, I think your presentation was great. Thank you. Your presentation is always great. I'm always like gold star for amendments because I think you're very clear and thoughtful. But when I look at the before and after, there's one chimney, I guess the middle one, that I think its removal is, somewhat of a visual detriment to the design, but not so much that I would,
You're talking about the
keep
one,
it.
the big hip.
Yeah, because now there's like the 3 dormers, and there's a lot of space between that dormer and the gable. But anyway, that's just kind of.
So if I may just add, the primary reason we're removing the chimneys, honestly, is because no, it's not that the reason. The reason is I like those chimneys. Okay. I prefer having those chimneys. However, we've decided to move into the house and my mom is very allergic to the wood fire that comes.
Yeah, I mean, it's almost say like, could you
So
keep
if we
it?
wanted it for the aesthetics, we actually thought about leaving,
Yeah.
like make some aesthetics that show us as a chimney. And I'm happy to do
Yeah,
that,
people
but
do
there's
that.
no way we're gonna add the chimneys or we're gonna move.
I think that's what Ms. Hammock is asking.
Yeah,
is-
they put that's what I'm implying. Like, I understand it's very unhealthy with asthma,
Yeah,
the chemicals
exactly.
in wood. I totally understand. I grew up with a home with 3 working fireplaces and, we had bats and all sorts of things. But I'm, like, we don't regulate use anyway. So if you got a chimney, we wouldn't make you use it or not. But, it was just, yeah, if
That
you're
would be-
if
then
you're
I've actually-
willing to build a fake brick chimney, I think it does look better.
Mr. Coffey.
I'd have to agree with, Gabriella. Put the fake chimney in and perhaps put a satellite dish inside of it, conceal it. Use it for entertainment, seriously, use it for something else other than a smoking chimney. Again,
No, but we would be just spending the money twice, just because we would want the electric chimney, so I would build the brick and I would wrap it with drywall and I would put the electric on top of that, which would be just double spending for no reason.
but I think just make it as inexpensive as possible because that architectural feature.
Or you mean to leave the aesthetics?
Yeah, that's what I'm
like,
saying, yeah,
maybe it
just
doesn't even puncture.
It's all
I'm not
drywall.
a mason, but like, does it even puncture
it's
the
plywood.
wall? Or does it just extend off the chimney and brick?
Faux chimney, it would
Yeah.
be nearly decorative. And
Yeah.
the reason I fought that too, but it's also new construction. It's not.
Yeah, that's like I
it's
said, I'm not gonna die on
yeah.
that hill.
So in my
Like,
mind, it was
I
like-
kind of just wanted to put that out
If
there.
it were a redo of a historic house and we wanted to get rid of the chimneys, I'd be like, keep the
Yeah, I mean,
chimney, but change the
in
inside.
historic
Yeah.
homes, often we do ask property owners to brick it up on the inside, but maintain. But yes, this is new construction, but it's just kind of just putting it out there.
Other questions or comments from board members? If not, we could do a motion. One is, we're gonna need 2 eventually, one's for the building plan.
I had a question about that.
Yeah, Mr. Daniel.
Is there any way, and Mary Catherine, or is this gonna give you heartburn, that if I said the first part of the approval and then also said recommend approval of the revisions, can I try to make it one motion, or is that really just not?
I think you need to make 2 separate ones to keep it.
Then I will make one motion.
Mr. Daniel, please feel free to make a motion. One and only one.
That's a lot, this is a lot to read now.
There's a new sentence too. I stuttered.
Mr. Chairman, I move that the ARB approve action item ARB 2026 SP 00014, located at 5640 Ox Road, Fairfax Station, tax map 0771010057 in St. Mary's Church Historic Overlay District for the proposed modifications to the previously ARB approved design for the new construction as submitted and presented April 9th, 2026 ARB meeting. The applicant must request an amendment from the ARB for any proposed changes to the ARB 2026 SP 00014 as approved by the ARB on April 9th, 2026. Upon review of the materials, the proposal is found to meet the requirements of zoning ordinance 3101 historic overlay districts. Once building permits are issued, all work must substantially conform to the work shown in the application materials and approved by the ARB.
Thank you, Mr. Daniel. Is there a second? Mr. Burns seconds. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries. All right, now we need a motion on the infill live rating plan. If anyone wants to be brave, Mr. Burns.
Sure. Mr. Chairman, I move that the ARB recommend for approval item ARB 2026 SP 00016 located at 5640 Ox Road at map 0771010057 in the St. Mary's Church HOD for the proposed revisions to the previously approved ARB approved site plan as submitted and presented at the April 9th, 2026 ARB meeting. The applicant must request an amendment from the ARB for any proposed changes to ARB 2026 SP 00016 as recommended for approval by the ARB on April 9th, 2026. Upon review of the materials, the proposal is now found to meet the requirements of zoning ordinance 3101 historic overlay districts. All work done and submitted for county review must substantially conform with the work shown in the application materials and approved by the ARB.
Thank you, Mr. Burns. Is there a second? Mr. Daniels seconds. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Any abstentions? That motion carries. Mr. Heath, have a great evening. Thank you very much. All right, that brings us to what's the next one? Is it item?
Right at the bottom.
That's
Thank you. Fighting permit.
Yep. All right, that brings us to our last action item, which is ARB 2026 DR 0012 demolition located at 1015 Turkey Run Road in the Langley Fork Historic Overlay District. The applicant proposes demolition of a house to construct residential sports courts and associated landscaping. And Mr. Syed, how are you?
I'm doing. Thank you for having me, Erica.
Absolutely.
This is the development over at 1015 Turkey Run Road. At 1015, this is the historic the work's being done there. It currently is, go to the next slide, please. This is the proposed site plan. Next slide. We'll be submitting a demo permit to demo this home. So that's really the purpose of my presence here is in support of that demo permit. Next slide. So landscape sheets that were submitted with site plan. Next slide. I think that's it. Just closing with kind of where we are. So questions, comments?
Any members of the public have any comment on this one? No. Members of the board, Ms. Hammack?
Can you go back to the very first slide that, that showed this, So are these historically 3 tax lots and are they being merged?
They're not being merged. They're being submitted together. As there's 3 lots, they're being submitted for the purposes of supporting the accessory use for the main residence on 1011 Turkey Run Road. We could not, by zoning, we couldn't just have a accessory use of a sport court on the individual lot. It has to be, that use has to be supported by a main dwelling. That makes sense?
Sure. Okay. That makes sense to other board members. I guess to me,
They're still individual
it
lots.
seems strange to have an individual lot with no home on it. But if that's how the county wants it, right?
You have to build a house on that lot. It's a demolition, it becomes a open space.
So the tennis court can get its own mail. Okay. All right. No, I mean, I don't have, the house is from 1993.
It's a pickleball. actually. It's gonna be a new pickleball.
Basketball.
Well,
Basketball.
it abuts a school, so hopefully the school won't be bothered by the noise.
Mr. Plummer.
Sure. You're just here for the demolition or also for
We're
the,
just here for the.
so then you'll come back for this or not?
We've been here for.
Okay, so we approved this, right?
You guys.
Okay,
have-
gotcha. And there's no batting cage, right? It's a
There is.
week on that.
There isn't, yeah, no.
So there is that?
No, there is.
I was being sarcastic there. There's a reason for that. Okay. I have no problem with you demolishing and moving forward.
Any other questions or comments from board members? Would anyone like to make a motion?
Sure, Mr. Chairman, I move that the ARB approve action item ARB 2026DR00012, located at 1015 Turkey Run Road, McLean, tax map 0223010052, in the Langley Fork HOD for the proposed demolition of the existing house estimated presented at the April 9th, 2026 ARB meeting. The applicant must request an amendment from the ARB for any proposed changes to ARB 2026 DR 00012 as approved by the ARB on April 9, 2026. Upon review of the materials, the proposal is found to meet the requirements of zoning ordinance 3101 Historic Overlay District. Once building permits are issued, all work must be all work done must substantially conform with the work shown on the application materials and approved by the ARB.
All right, is there a second? Ms. Hammack, seconds. I got Ms. Hammack, sorry. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Any abstentions? The motion carries. Mr. Syed, thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Want to wish you all a happy World Landscape Architecture Month, and especially to
Thank you.
superhero here.
Oh, you're the hero too. Thank you so much.
All right, that takes us out of items for action and into our workshop. Our first workshop is ARB WK 2026 MV 00006, Workhouse Arts Campus signage and wayfinding plan. And it says Mr. Herring represents the reputation. I'm going to guess not.
He's here, but
Mr. Herring, how are you?
I just want to introduce the project and then I'll introduce our
Absolutely.
team. So my name is Joanne Phoebe. I'm with the Department of Economic Initiatives. I'm here with Matthew Garrett Herring. The department helps to oversee the development and activities on the Workhouse campus. So a few months ago, I shared with you all that we had several upcoming projects at the Lorton Workhouse, including the signage and wayfinding project. So we're here tonight to share with you some initial sign plans and are looking for that early feedback. We have hired a fantastic design firm, Ashton Design, who has experience working on historic properties, doing this kind of environmental graphics and other design work. We spent the last almost 6 months now working with stakeholders, including various county staff, many community members, and workhouse leaders to start to develop out this plan. So I'll turn it over to them to share those design concepts.
I'm Debbie Hoffman, principal at Ashton.
I'm Brian Ahola, senior designer at Ashton.
We can go to the next page. Today we're just going to talk to you about our background and where we are. This is really a concept package, and we wanted to put it in front of you before the county spends money on our time and make sure that everything that we're showing you we're going in the right direction from an approval point of view since it's historic. So we're going to show you the identity concepts that then trickle into how that then works in signage, and then go into a digital component. Please go to the next page. So in a background, go to the next page, please. This is where it's located. Anything to add, Brian?
No, nothing to add.
Okay, next page. So as you probably all know, it's originally was a prison, and when you go into it now, there's aspects of it that's pretty stark, and so they came to us really wanting to bring the life to it.
It's very historically significant. There's a museum on campus that really talks about the history of it. And there's starting to be a lot of life brought there, but it's kind of masked right now. Go to the next page, please. So there is so much energy hidden in this space. You walk into the space and there's texture and light, and there's just art and energy everywhere. And so what we want to do is bring that inside out so that people feel that the space is more approachable. Go to the next slide. And so and there's future development that we're also taking into account. So in addition to the art center, there's also currently food destination, Bunny Man, and there's potential for further development. And so we're not just thinking in the silo of now, we're trying to be strategic to think about the future. So keep going. So, and we worked with the stakeholder groups to really talk about, these are our goals, to just enhance the environment and to make it feel warm and make you feel like you want to be there. Highlighting the history through little touch points, but not in a way that you feel like you're experiencing an exhibit. Just creating that sense of place and really placemaking in general. You can go to the next page. And next. So this is our positioning for our high level concept that we were really thinking of the project like one thinks of a contemporary art museum. In the fact that it has this historic past, but we didn't want to put this aesthetic all over it. We kind of wanted to get out of the way. So we wanted to come up with a way to show art and show what's happening, and have it work together and have little touch points to show the energy within. That's our really, would you add anything to that?
I would just say another component that we're considering is making sure that our designs let the architecture come forward and that our designs are not being in the forefront and shouting. They're, letting the art shine and letting the architecture shine.
Mm-hmm. Go to the next page. So when you think of contemporary art museum, this is just one of the charrettes we had and like what was coming forward of the feel. So anyway, less is more is what we're talking about. Go to the next slide. So this is the part of the process was there was no identity to the project. So we would go ahead and design signage, but based on what? We didn't have, we wanted to avoid the world of subjectivity. So we started with the identity. You go to the next page.
I'd be switching computers. A few minutes.
It's just here every so often. Yeah. It's random.
Hit that snooze button.
Okay, here, I'm gonna do this.
Okay.
Okay, so we're gonna take a little break for, I guess it's not really station identification. I'm going to stop sharing in this computer and I have it up on the other computer.
Okay. Well, backup computer is a pretty good, handy thing.
Sharing. Go over here. Yeah, we'll start sharing. There we go. No muss, no fuss.
All right.
It's pretty seamless right there. Yeah.
Where were we? And we're including this just to kind of set the stage of why the signage is where it is. So this is a system for workhouse, and it can work as far as adding different things to it. We're thinking of it a campus, we're thinking of events, and just trying to make it an identity system. Go to the next slide. And just to show you how that feels, it's, you know, they're stacked and you can kind of see like the buildings and how they stack up. The typeface also is from the same time period that the building was built, but that was just like geeking out a little bit, but we enjoy it.
Yeah.
And this is just an example of how we're getting out of the way and letting the art come forward. So we're having like a charcoal color for the signage elements, but then pushing color through art, bringing the inside out. And go ahead to the next slide. And one of the big things that we were tasked with is navigation. And a lot of people, there's nothing, everything, because everything is the same and it's like a step and repeat with the architecture, it's hard to have that visual memory of like, oh, I went to this place last time, but it looks exactly like this place. So what we wanted to do, there's two ways to get somewhere with signage. There's the message, but then you have to remember exactly what the message is. So we wanted to create a secondary opportunity of color to make it like an intuitive aspect. Oh, I kind of feel like I need to go down the cool side. I don't remember exactly what color it was, but I know it was kind of, wasn't as far as green. And the same thing goes the other side. So we're just giving subtle indicators of direction. Anything to add, Brian?
No, just that we're looking at assigning labels to the different parking lots so that it's easier for people to navigate and know where to go when they're parking.
Next slide, please. And this is an example of how we're nesting the art within the signage. And where we have, again, this is just conceptual. There's different things we could do, like that art panel could actually be magnetic, so they could replace it over time, or there's lots of options. But this is an example of simplicity and getting out of the way, and the information is there when you need it. And we've done a sign location plan that so that we're all about less is more. So we don't want to oversign anything, but when you need to know where to turn, we want it there.
Yeah, this is the vehicular freestanding wayfinding sign. So this is like one of the first things you would see after you enter the site and helps you get to different parking areas and different areas of the site.
And again, it has this framing concept. All right, next slide.
This is one of the parking lot ID signs. So this would help you to sign each parking lot would have a letter, and then it also has suggested destinations for where, like saying, oh, you should park here for this building, or different examples like that. And it also has the art.
Who's your placeholder at the moment? Go on.
This is one of the large building ID numerals. And these really help they serve the purpose of identifying the buildings from the backside. So when you're parking, all the buildings look very similar. It's hard to know what the difference is. So this helps you to find your way and helps you to identify each one. And for this direction, the idea is that it would also have a piece of art that's associated with what's happening in the building. So it could show a painting, or it could show another piece of art that's related to.
Because one of those, like just glass blowing, and so you can have something there with that. And so it really helps get the indication of like, oh yeah, that's there. And also as a cross sell, and that's one of the things like the committee came to us with, was that, hey, I'm going to always go to this one thing, but there could have been X, Y, and Z other things I'd be interested in. And so through your path, you might discover what else is there. One of the things that we're really cognizant of is any time, and we'll get into this later, that it needs to be fixed to the building, would only go into the mortar. And we would never go into anything brick. We are also, anything to add to that?
We're also just considering and prioritizing things that can be ground mounted when possible, but
always
certain things are not, that's not an option. So, next slide, please. This is another type of building identification sign. This would be a projecting blade sign, so these would be used in certain different cases.
Next slide.
This is an example of a wall-mounted wayfinding sign. So these would be mounted to the brick, and they would help direct pedestrians around the site.
And we have different versions for this same one. Like, for example, the next sign, next slide, is if we wanted to think in advance, if you guys started yelling at us about putting it into this, that we have a backup that would be mounted into the ground, and we wanted to do a way that it wasn't, so it didn't look like a mistake, it looked intentional. And so this was an example of that. And if you go to the next slide, one of the things that is when you're on campus is like looking ahead and knowing where to go, is because some of the views are blocked. So this is an opportunity to have some hanging signage that doesn't go into the brick as well. And then we have these peekaboo moments, like to add color in places underneath, just to have that sense of warmth. Next slide.
And this takes us into back into the parking area. We also would have pole-mounted banners that would help identify the parking lots as well. And so these would have the letter associated with the parking area, and then also could have a piece of art as well, help you remember.
Yeah, we're trying to get have the art and the color work together, so it really helps with that visual memory. Next slide. All right. Okay, so this is why don't you take on this?
Yeah, so this is another component, the digital sign. So the digital signage, the idea is to really help identify the campus, to showcase what the campus's offerings are. It's also to enhance the wayfinding at the intersection, reduce sign clutter by offering that changeable aspect, but then requiring less individual signs. So different tenants might not need to have separate signs. They could all be represented on the digital sign.
Right now, when we toured the campus, there's all these signs that look like they should go away, and they're still there, and you see remnants of it. And the idea is to give them a vehicle to have access to the signage without feeling like they need to put out a banner all the time. And so to really clean up the space.
Another thing to mention is that the digital sign and the structures will be visible at the same time from the roadway because of the tree line. So that would prevent any, strange looking juxtapositions. It's not going to be, you're not going to see the buildings necessarily at the same time as the sign.
Mm-hmm.
And then another thing is just to note that light text on the dark background is more readable and reduces glare towards the roadway. So that's something we're considering. And there's also the possibility to have artwork as a component with digital sign, not just advertising and marketing.
Yeah, so we actually really liked taking that concept all the way through, and like they can come up with a system. So every X amount, you show artwork from within. So we're pretty excited about that as well. Next slide.
These are just some examples of precedent digital signs that we were referencing and looking at on the left. And then on the right are showing the rough area where the digital sign would be located.
Yeah, and you can, this is a good, it's about right here, right, Brian?
Yes.
Yeah. And so you can see how there's the backdrop of the trees, and you can't see the campus behind it, right? Go to the next slide, please.
So this slide and the next slide are both illustrating the view shed and also travel speeds on the road, which are roughly 60 miles an hour. And this was all just to help us calculate and figure out what we would recommend for the font size for visibility so that we could show what we recommend as the ideal size for this sign. So you could go to next page. And the next one as well. This slide is showing what is allowed in the zoning for the scale of this type of sign. And you can see it's fairly small. And then also if you were in one of the cars, this is a Google Street View, so the camera is likely a lot higher than.
More like a bus.
Yeah, it's more like a bus. So some of these cars that were in front of you, your view would be blocked by those cars. So you wouldn't really see the sign. It wouldn't be
Because we
practical.
experienced that when we did our site drive, yeah. All right.
Next slide. Okay, next slide. And this is the concept. So on the right side, we're showing the proposed size of the digital line. And it's a primarily vertical sign. It has a permanent message at the bottom with the logo, the brand, and then the top section is the digital. And the drawing on the left is the permitted, an example of a size of of what's permitted for the zoning.
And then the top view is just to the angle.
Oh, and the top view, yes, the plan view showing the angle we would have the faces. They wouldn't be perpendicular. I'm sorry, they wouldn't be parallel to each other. They would have an angle so that they would be more visible to the roadway. Next slide. And then we have some context renderings. So if you go to the next page, this is showing roughly the view of what that would look like from this is the southern view, I believe. And then the next slide shows another similar illustration from the other viewpoint. And that's part of the summary page that shows roughly the different sign types that are what you just showed. And then I believe if you go next, this is just a list of all of the sign types that we showed. And then the bold ones at the bottom are other sign types that we're also studying and looking at, but they weren't shown in the presentation. So we're looking at possibly doing a pedestrian map to help navigate. There will also be tenant signage for the different tenants at the project. And those are listed of the different types.
Yeah, and so usually how we start this process is we come up with a design intent, and once that gets approved, we go and exercise in all the unique sign types. Okay.
And then we just have next steps. And we also have, at the end, we have a site plan for reference if anyone's looking through that as well.
Yeah, yeah, so the brown being the banners and the light poles, you can just tell them high level what it means.
Yeah, so the brown dots, these are in the parking areas. So these would be those light pole banners. The blue, these would be the vehicular directional signs there. We also have parking lot IDs. These are the brown rectangles here. Pedestrian directional signs, those can be located. We have some here, the pink, and we have some within the colonnade. We have the building ID signs. Those are the orange lines here at the back. Primary building ID entry signage. Those are at the main entry doors into the building. And we also have secondary building entry IDs. So those would be like graphic.
Glass and doors.
Yeah, those are like on the backs of some of the buildings. And then this is the location of the digital sign. This is existing signage, and then these are also existing signage.
Those are existing, yeah. And then part of the process is a tenant sign criteria, just so we can put some parameters. So that's where we are, and we just thought it was a good point to check in before we take it any further.
All right, thank you. Members of the board, questions and comments? Mr. Plumpy and then Ms. Hammond.
I have a lot, but.
I have a lot too.
Well,
Mr. Plumpy and then Ms. Hammond.
thanks so much. First of all, I was introduced to these folks, I think, when they were first hired on. We had a quick one-on-one virtual meeting, which I appreciate. I'm sorry, I think you attended invite by surgery, so I think keep me in the loop. you don't mind, for like some feedback, maybe done for the next meeting. They're very talented, I'll say that. Couple things here, and as you know, I'm on the board of directors too at the Award House, and this is been my pet peeve, the signage. My firm, 339, then the original one in 2025, which is bare bones, low cost. It did its job for a little bit, but I'm glad to see that it's finally getting amped up again. So thank you so much for coming aboard. A pretty basic question is some of the freestanding signs, are they internally lit, like on page 15 of your presentation? If you go back to page 15 on the doc, not in the slide. Just and
You're talking about,
internally lit so they can see at night, because sometimes the lighting is not the greatest there. You know, it lights the parking lot well, but it's kind of a little dark and dingy there when they're after dark. Just thinking out loud, you may want to consider that, not to say that it is. No need to answer that. The other thing is too is that the signs that are more tactical at people level, are they braille and so forth, which you have to do, I would assume, because it's a public accessible place. So make sure that they're braille reading. I know I'm getting into the weeds here on that, but make sure that you do like those little kiosks along the walkways so that's one thing to consider. I say the hanging signs from the ceiling, I'm not a big fan of it. I know why you're doing that because it's tough, but they're pretty small up there, maybe tough to read. I think the lower ones work better. I think let's not sign it to death, so maybe pick and choose one of them. On page 25, you have the digital sign. That's the digital sign one. I know that's been a thing that they've been wanting a digital sign. I think the county code says it does not allow that, but we're trying to get that modified. I think the board has, because it's tough to show what's coming up. At that corner there of where Morton Road is, that has the existing sign, then you have this pylon sign right beside it. It's like a little too much signage. In my opinion, I was never a big fan of what was put there, frankly. I know we approved it, whatever, but I don't think it does what you're trying to do. So I think I would remove some and maybe get some of that square footage back if it's allowable by the county. So on your plan view exhibit, yeah. Well, the very last plan you showed, you had a red triangle, blue triangle, red triangle, maybe remove that on the plan view by lot A, which you had. Get into the weeds on here, but you got enough signs. They were really close together. If you go to the plan, oops, yeah, that one, if you blow up the lower left-hand corner of the site. And you got the blue triangle, which is the new one that they're talking about, the digital read, and then the other one is a static sign that has the Bunnyman Brewery and a few other, and the Suffragette Museum in there. A little too close together. I'd take out the older one if you want to go to the new one. Maybe that's money thrown away, but maybe not. I think you're going to get more activity. The other thing is along that same plan, if you push it to the left, so you can see coming from the east from Occoquan, which most of your traffic is coming from, once they cross 95, there's no sign there. So can you put something there? Because I think you've already passed the site. It's maybe too like, oh my God, I got to turn right here at Orton. I think you need to have a sign, maybe another electronic sign or something that tracks maybe way before you get to the property, maybe where the ball field starts, like way off, just to say, here it is, and then boom, there's something there, because a lot of traffic goes in there. I'm just saying from my past experience. The one thing that I'm not a big fan of is the brewery there has these little floppy signs. Hopefully we can control that so that doesn't happen anymore, because you're doing such a wonderful job of this new signage. I know that there's internally there's road signs and more directional signage and so forth. You haven't addressed that yet, but I'm assuming that's gonna be part of the package eventually, maybe a lower rung, but this is you're going after the big picture things. Thank you. And with your printed, eventually there'll be maybe a little pamphlet or something that you hand out for the guests who want to have that little map in their hand if they don't have a cell phone. Older people, not like me. What's that?
On the phone.
That's it. Well, I'm just saying people that don't have a phone, bad reception. Just saying, is that perhaps there's something that some mailer or whatever you got to do. I know everything's electronic, but it's maybe whatever you do can also be converted into a printed collateral eventually in the future. I do welcome the larger graphics on the backs of the walls. It's hard to see because it's very fine lettering. We were only allowed to do that because of square footage back in the day. And of course, everything we do get run by the fire, health and safety departments of Fairfax County because they won't chime in on legibility and placements and so forth. That's all I have. Sorry, I've talked.
That's good.
I've
My
long-winded.
points are very different than yours. Can you go back to the very first slide? There's like your inspiration photos. I don't know, the third
Less
slide.
is more.
No. So when I saw those images, I was immediately like PTSD, architecture school, like late nights. I don't want to be negative, but like I just don't like that direction. I think signage at this site, yeah, is really important.
Right.
I think it could like even treating the site with kid gloves because it's so special. And so now it's like, oh my gosh, this is like could make or break it. And so my immediate thought was like, well, what was the historic signage? How can we relate this signage back to the larger narrative of the site? And so I found a historic image when it was a correctional facility, and it's the key, right? The Fairfax keys. But then I see that the key is the symbol of the museum, right? There's like a little key. Okay, well, I still think maybe you could abstract the key. That would be a nice tie-in to the fact that it was a correctional facility without being too literal. And then I thought, well, this site has the roof lines, the dormers, and the repetitive arcades. Let's do something with the roof line. But then I see that's the sign of the workhouse. Why? So now I'm confused. Why is that gable with the two observation towers that's abstracted to the workhouse art center? Why is that image graphic not in this signage?
Well, all right, backing up. So when we did the process, we actually did 3 directions that we presented to the stakeholders. And one was very forward facing, which is the direction that's selected. And one was more like as if it was of the times, more historic.
No, I don't want like a ye old signage. I just want some visual connection to the historic use of the
Yes,
site.
and in doing the process, the arts group brought up that they thought they were about 7 years-ish away from having the money to rebrand and throw everything away. And then they got really excited about this, that how we had this stackable system. And so what we were actually instructed not to consider that, and specifically it's purple and not to, they're just one tenant out of the many. And so how to think about not, because there's a theater, there's lots of other
They
things
want it to be
beyond.
more big,
Yes, yeah.
but I don't like the bigness, okay? Because I'm in a German airport with that bigness. Like, maybe it's not the Workhouse Arts Center, but think about what UVA has done with the rotunda. I mean, they have regurgitated that rotunda 1,000 times over. The dome, the columns. I mean, you have just so many geometric shapes to work with at this workhouse that I think would be such a great opportunity for signage, and it could still be very clean and modern and buildable. So that's the direction obviously I'm not, you have to listen to your stakeholders, but that's what I prefer. I think that given the massing and the size of the site, this type of signage can work. And I also was reading about how there's a history of murals being painted by the inmates. And I know that paint on the brick is a problem because it would be hard to reverse and it could damage the brick. But I think that's a good kind of a good reasoning for us as a board for why these larger graphic artist type signage are appropriate. And I also was thinking in the evenings, like I'm thinking what happened in Richmond with the Confederate monument when it was taken down. An artist projected a light onto the wall, like perhaps in the evening, some signage is projected onto the wall. You won't have neighbors hopefully too close to be disturbed by that. And I just think that'd be really cool and like tie into that history. Like I really want I love the color coding. I think that makes sense. But I just think this is a really good opportunity to continue to tell the story of the site through the signage. So that's kind of the direction I'd like to see it go.
And actually, one of the aspects that we're planning on working into the next phase is one of the, they had these didactic panels and a couple of them, and they were very old and faded and you couldn't read them. And that when you experience the content, the feedback was it wasn't making me want to go and experience a museum because you got the gist of it. So our plan is to integrate breadcrumbs of factoids about the history that you can discover on multiple uses. So like the fifth time you go, you notice a new thing. And so we're hoping to have it not be a tired experience, have you not see everything that you're going to see the first visit. And on the 12th visit, I never noticed that little thing that's behind here. Isn't that neat? And oh, I didn't know that about the space. So one of our tasks in the future is to integrate that, the storytelling.
Yeah. I also think that, I know you want to, from a functional standpoint, the management or the nonprofit wants to get all the signage types covered. Like, let's just exhaust every type of signage, plaque, wall, pedestal, bench, whatever, and get it approved. But I would like to, and I don't know if this is really, like in a perfect world, I'd love for the site to be occupied and used with one set of signage. And then maybe if people need more help, then we can say, okay, add more signage. Because if we just go in with a heavy hand, we might end up putting more signage in than's needed. And then we visually cluttered up the space. It's almost like a master plan, like there's, A through G types of signage. Don't put in A through G in every possible site, use it sparingly and then get feedback from the visitors of what works, what doesn't work, and then we can decide it instead of just installing every approved sign day one.
And adding to that, because I totally agree with that, what our plan is to do is do the key touch points. And so the next round will actually show you, because from a this is not an option financially. Right. So the plan is we want to design what could possibly be needed. So we don't have any woulda, coulda, shouldas, and we designed the sign types to work if they are deemed necessary. What the next phase will be to start work with the budget backwards, prioritize what is going to be needed. But while they have our attention and our time, is to design any unique sign type that could possibly be needed. Like, for example, even the banners, they'll likely be just at the entrance strip here, closest to the driving area, but it could go to the whole area if we find that you need more energy. Right now, it's really stark back there, but maybe we do, and it is possible. So this is a maximalist, and I agree with you, less is more when it comes to signage. So and that will be an exercise as well, as people are driving the space and trying to figure out where to go. It's just usually an error and figure it out.
Mr. Daniel, then Mr. Plum.
Excuse my coughs. I've been getting over a cold for the past 3 weeks. So I like the minimalist approach with the signage actually compared to Ms. Hammock, because I think it blends itself in and goes away. And so from my perspective, I want that signage to only be there when I need it, and otherwise to be, not really what I'm there for, because the buildings are the stars for me. That being said, I like the color tone you've gone with, because I think it plays off the roofs, it plays in contrast to the brick, so I think it actually does a good job walking with that in a way that doesn't feel obtrusive, but then you took that twist of let's add artwork to it, which I actually thought is really clever. The biggest thing I think about with some of the wayfinding is the colors and the artwork, that stuff's going to fade. One thing we've talked about, particularly with the parking lots, is it's just sun constant. And so that's the one big thing I think about is it's beautiful but that is going to be a cost as those reds and oranges and yellows suddenly start to really, really fade over the time in the sunny parking lots. I think everybody seems to so far like the big letter ideas. I think that's a cool concept. I don't have a problem with the overhead sign, but if I had to pick one of the two on the bottom, I think I'm more inclined to have one just attached to the column, just personally, that's just me. Then the big elephant is the LED sign, which, gosh, that sign has come back up over and over again. I agree with Mr. Plumpy. I'd rather not have two signs there. I'd rather have one. I don't like that the name, the workhouse, is at the bottom of it, because if you're saying it's already hard to see things, I feel like the name of the location should be up high. That's definitely something with Liberty and Laurel Hill. Their name is at the top of theirs, and it's also got a very utilitarian feel to it. But they keep that up there so the place name and then the information beneath it. I personally don't have a problem with a digital sign like that because it's so far away from the property itself. It's something I've said during this is that if people don't know this is here and don't know what's going on, then they're never going to go to it. So do I love digital signs? No. Do I think this place needs one? Yes. There's my quick run through.
The only thing I want to say before Mr. Plumpy comes in, I'm sorry, because I'm going to forget if I don't say it. And I'm sure you've thought of this already, but since we're talking about removing signs as a potential, there's tenants that might have a lease that might have provisions in there. And so that's something obviously that I'm sure you would.
And a board member here, a board member from the workhouse is, I think the logo would be good on some of the signage, especially on the roadway, so to speak, because it is the workhouse. However, I think you need, like I said before, more signage along 113. You're going 60 miles an hour plus along there. And the biggest thing that we have, and I don't mean say this negatively against the facility, is that it's not iconic enough yet that we don't need signage. We know where we're going because we trying to drive people up on 95 and so forth. You need some strong signage along 123. I think if I had to prioritize 123, 123, 123, and then start to mitigate your signage inward, like Gabriella said, is that don't spend all your little widgets throughout the whole thing. Now just pick and choose. Maybe there's 3 or 4 types of signage that are the big hitters that kind of pull people in, and then word of mouth will help it. And then you keep on adding those signs internally. But again, digital signs, if it's a way to heaven forbid, as I say, 2 digital signs, but not as large as the pylon, something that it needs to be attractive, or at least one, something, go ahead.
Can I ask related to all of this? If we're looking at the frontage on 123, we sort of said the area, if you take the quad and extrapolate it down to 123, we kind of said we thought you all would say no to any signs in that view shed. Is that true? Like, where would you want to see, where would it be okay to have?
I think we're talking more like the lower right-hand corner, like right as
lower right from you're
getting closer to 95, right?
Yeah, like probably down even farther.
It might not even be
right there by the ball field, because that's clear visibility from 123.
Okay.
There's a slight hill there. I know there's going to be an art installation in that area.
I gotta look at the property lines.
Yeah, but
I think it is.
I think it's your property, but bottom line is it's great to have something at Thornton Road, but you got to get rid of one of the signs. That's the one on the left, but the one on the right, you need something there because I've already passed it, and I'm not going to turn around and go. That's all. Thank you.
It's Mr. Burns and then Ms. Wong.
A number of comments. I felt I was in different locations depending on one of the things that you were presenting, like that signage that Gabriella mentioned. I felt like I was at the Museum of Modern Art, looking at an exhibit of modern American signage, right? And then we go a little further along, and then we see the signs hanging in the corridors. I'm thinking suddenly I'm in a subway and I'm seeing directions for where I'm going to go. And then at the end, you had the big electronic sign out on 123. And I'm thinking, I'm in a shopping center. Yeah, okay. So none of those speak Lorton Art Center or a former prison or historic. They're all a little off from my perspective. I agree with, I forget who, several people have said it, that the small signs on the interface of the columns of the arcades, I think is a good solution. Putting freestanding stuff in the grass there, you're just going to have a whole series of tombstones all over the property, and that detracts from the very spare landscape of the overall site. I'm concerned about the size of the text. You had one graphic up there that showed a car with a pedestrian and then a sign, right? And looking at the scale of the relative things, the lettering on that sign, ostensibly visible from the car, looked to be about half the height of the lettering on a license plate number. In other words, I think you would have a hard time reading it. It was fairly dense text. So that relationship between the size of the text and the distance from which it's meant to be read, I think is something that you always have to keep in mind. I am not a big fan of digital signs. Every time I drive out Braddock Road and I come across the one at George Mason, it's just like, every time you see it, it just, someday electronic signs are going to be graceful. They're going to have some class, but right now they're just garish. And that's, I don't think that's what you want to do to draw people into a place that celebrates art. You know, if you're advertising a carnival or a shopping center or something, okay, fine. But it needs to be a more refined thing. Now, in terms of people not seeing the sign until it's too late, I mean, why not just put a whole series like Burma shade signs coming up the hill on 123, you know?
Well, it's interesting you say.
Boom, 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 you know? They don't have to be big. They're just little things, just like the Burma shade signs. You kept wanting to see what the next one said, next one, and then turn here, boom, you're done. Without having a huge garish sign up at the intersection of Horton Road, which by the time you see that, you've got to turn, or you got to go up and come down that little side street to come back to it. Those are the things that struck me. I like the idea of having non-historic typeface. I guess that would be a sans serif type space to draw the distinction between the new and the old, and stuff like that. And then with the very large signs with numerals on the buildings, are those the actual historic building numbers?
Yeah.
Is that's what you're, okay.
Yeah.
Make that clear that that's part of what you're doing here. That you're tying that history of the historic building number.
Yeah, we're not changing the naming.
Yeah, okay, but you're not imposing a new numbering system. The ABCs and stuff in the parking lot, that's fine. That's it, because that was never part of the historic character of the
But
place.
then there's the address that is for the fire, which
And
is,
yeah, right, you gotta keep the fire department
that's
happy.
what this is.
Right. Yeah. Anyway, those are my initial reactions.
Ms. Wong.
Yes, couple of things, and it's gonna be very random, not organized. I was started out, I'm in support of big sign at along the major road on the corner of the property. But I always feel that there should be some sort of sculpture-like type of tall things there instead of rectangular shopping mall, that kind of thing. However, Mr. Burns' idea with all that boom, boom, boom is a pretty interesting idea too. So you could think about it. For the arcade, the ceiling sign, I really do not want to support it. It makes me feel like I'm in the airport that ways. And I think it's gonna have a hard time to design it to make it more in harmony with the space around it. I really like the idea of introduce the color into it. I am a ceramic artist. I come to this site a lot to check out my friends' work. Every time I go there, I almost feel like I wish each each house is a different program. So I almost feel like, can I see some clay before I go into that building? Can I see some glass before I go into that building? And I was thinking, I don't know, it may be just cost prohibited, but could this material become part of the sign design? Things like that. Maybe I'm dreaming it. Just some idea here.
That's good.
Yes, Mr. Plumpy.
Just I know I'm dragging this, but it's a good drag out. Okay.
It's been a lengthy workshop.
Just what Mr. Burns said is, about 2 years ago, I had that same conversation being the board of directors. I said, we need to get people in here. And right now there's a chain link fence that they just strap things to and it looks kind of rubbish. It looks pretty tired, so to speak. I said, look, maybe it's a long ribbon of art that starts way back when. It's an art panel that continues that is along either segmented or it's a long ribbon of art that catches your eye and then you go turn that first entry because this is an art thing. So using art as opposed to just signage to attract you into the site and maybe the big pylon sign is a pylon sign, whatever it is, but all the museums I've seen, larger, especially when they're landscape art and landscape associating that are more suburban in nature, there's a huge piece of art that really is your iconic element. Not to dwarf the prison, but it's something that's unique enough that, wow, this is the iconic thing I want to go to because of it's artistic. It's either that long ribbon along 123 that Mr. Burns says you catch your eye right away. Because you got about a quarter mile before you hit Thornton Road, but you got an eighth of a mile to turn into your first right into the property. I think it's a good start. I think the digital sign, I don't want a supermarket. I think you hit the nail on the head. It's like there's a supermarket that's down the street, the Giant down there. Let's not compete with that and be different. And less signs the better, simplify. And I don't mind the simple signs, but it's okay. It's all good.
The architecture student doesn't like this. The slide number 25, you show a British Airways illuminated sign.
That's good.
And I think the top portion is metal and it is sculptural. And like, maybe there's some shape. I'm really liking the architecture, the roof line, the dormers.
That's good.
Maybe that shape is like perfect. I don't know, like that is sculpture and also, what you're saying, like you could kill two birds with one stone.
Make it look like a guard tower.
Well, I don't know if people, I mean, that's kind of, that's true.
It's historic
You could
reference.
crenellate it like a castle, but, I don't know.
Yeah.
I think the prison is a home for the prison. I'd like to highlight that aspect and not the penalty.
Well,
Historic.
It's true.
yes. Thank you all very much. And I think you've got a lot of feedback and I think we'll be back.
Yeah.
And we look forward to seeing you again.
Great.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay. That brings us into our second workshop item, which is ARB WK 2026 PR 00005, the Dunmore Elementary School, and FCPS represents the application. I don't know who's leading the way, but
Were you here for that?
Good evening.
Good evening.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and the members of the board. Appreciate your patience as we're working towards the Dunmore historic exhibit that we're going to share with you tonight. I have Kyle Lee here presenting from Omaha Associates, and we have two members from EHT Traceries who did the historic research for us, and they're available for questions as well. Thank you.
NTC.
Good evening, thank you for having us. If we could, next slide. TB touched on the introductions. We have members from FCPS here today, Sama Associates, the architect, EHT Traceries, our historical consultants. We also have additional consultant design team members that have not attended, will not be attending today. If you go to the next slide.
Sorry, can you also state your name for the record? And
Sorry,
everyone else who
apologies.
doesn't-
My name is Kyle Lee. I'm with Sama Associates. I'm the project manager for the Dunmore Elementary School project.
Thank you.
Where we are in the project is, I guess,
stepping back a bit, the design for this project started back in 2022. It underwent a rezoning process between the end of 2023 to the beginning of 2025. As a result of the rezoning proffers, there's a number of interpretive historical exhibits that were added to the project, one interior to the building and one exterior. And those are being submitted now as part of our building and site permit review process. The project is anticipated to be constructed between the summer of 2026 and the fall of 2028. As a quick overview of the project, this is a pre-kindergarten through sixth grade elementary school facility. The existing Dunn-Loring Administrative Center staff will be relocated to another facility and the existing building removed for construction of the new elementary school. The intent is to limit the footprint of development while also providing security and safety enhancements and providing a elementary school with high performance mechanical systems and energy saving electrical systems. If you could go to the next slide, please. So just to familiarize everyone with the site, or as a refresher, the existing Dunn-Loring elementary school building sits at the intersection of Gallows Road and Idlewood Road to the south. The original 1939 building was built closer to where Gallows Road is now, under this gray section of roof, with further expansions to the west in the 1940s and 1950s. The original 1939 entrance faces Gallows Road right here, but the current facility uses this middle entrance that's adjacent to the 1940s addition. And further to the west, there's existing soccer fields with townhouse developments to the north, northwest, and the west. Next slide, please. The proposed design locates the new facility or the new school in the same footprint, or house in the same footprint as the original facility. The two side entrances, one originally on Gallows and the other on Idlewood, the Gallows Road entrance has been closed, with the Idlewood entrance being preserved. A new side entrance is added further up on Gallows Road. This is for the kiss and ride loop to separate the bus traffic and the kiss and ride traffic. So the bus loop is along the front here, dropping off at the new building main entrance in the center portion right here. Pedestrian access is primarily from the southeast for anyone approaching the site from Gallows Road, and anyone approaching from the west side of Idlewood will have their primary access to the building right at the bus loop entrance here, with additional access points to the site on either side of the soccer field for after hours use. If you go to the next slide. So for the interpretive historical exhibit, at the interior of the building, there's multiple components. The first being relocation of the existing pediment and entranceway, along with incorporation of salvage brick from the existing building. There's a existing federal works business stock located inside the building that will also be relocated and next slide, please. This is the first floor plan of the building. We were looking to locate the interpretive exhibit in a central location, one that would be prominent and visible to most of any of the occupants of the building or any building visitors. So just to orient ourselves, this is the main entrance. It's right in the center here. At the south side, we have our main office with our reception area, which building visitors would be routed through. And we have our cafeteria and gymnasium at the end of our main corridor, and a monumental open stair right at the center here as well. The exhibit itself would be located in the main corridor on the right-hand side, right across from the main office for the relocation. And then the plaque and display itself would be located across from the main monumental stair at this major intersection. Go to the next slide. The main entrance, the relocated existing entrance had its own challenges in getting relocated because it does have some depth. So we were looking to find a location that would limit any impacts to the required building program of the school. We found that this location right at the front worked well in that aspect, in addition to giving it a prominent location to any building visitors. Whether you're getting dropped off by bus and coming through the main entrance or being routed through reception as a building visitor, that is the first thing that you'll encounter as you enter into the school itself. Further along the main corridor across from the monumental stair, we'll have the display as well as the plaque located on this wall. Next slide, please. So as an elevation of that wall, elevation section, you have your main entrance to the right over here. It's a high bay 2-story space as you enter into the building. This lends itself well to installation of the salvaged entryway. We're relocating the existing columns, the pediment, entrance signage, transom windows, additional wood trim and paneling. That would all be located in this main lobby area here. After you cross that first corridor intersection, you have the Federal Works Agency plaque, as well as the interpretive display signage. And these would be, again, right across from the monumental open stair. Here's the next slide. We have the contents of the interpretive display that's located on the main corridor. And off to Vincent with EHT. Present the contents.
Hi, my name is Vincent Turner. I'm a historic preservation specialist with EHT Traceries. And I did the background research for these signs and actually designed the signs here too. The idea with the interior sign is that it focuses on the history of the school. So when the kids or whoever's coming to visit the school, they can actually learn about the building itself. It was a fascinating history, really hard to condense down into one sign on the inside there. And these photographs, the two of the exterior here actually came from Fairfax County Public Schools. They had these in their records. Jeff Clark was very helpful with getting historic photographs. Unfortunately, a lot of these are very small, so we're not sure how they're going to print out. The printer will be able to tell us a little bit more on that. But I thought they were pretty cool. And then the sign itself, actually, it starts from the beginning when they purchased the property to when they developed it, who designed the school, and then through the different design changes and uses. And I brought it all the way up to the present day because I know when I like reading historic signs, I like to know what happens even after historic usage. And then in the blue text you see down there at the bottom, it actually talks about colonial revivalism, the design of the school and why, that front entrance is so important. Why did we save it? It just gives a little bit of background to that.
Then the next slide, please. The second of the interpretive signage exhibits is the interpretive wayside marker to be located on the site. A preliminary location for the wayside marker is essentially as close as possible to where the original entrance was for the 1939 building, off on the east side. And this is essentially adjacent to where pedestrians would access the site in the bottom right-hand corner here from Gallows Road. An alternative location, which we haven't marked here, was being considered was closer to the playgrounds and the outdoors classrooms, ball fields, at this location over here further to the left. But we are open to further discussion on the location of the sign itself. Now, if you're going to go to the next slide. Headed back.
So this sign differs because it actually talks more about the property history itself. I went to the Virginia room at the Fairfax County Library, and they actually had a copy of the plat map for Dunn Loring, which I thought was pretty interesting. And I figured out where exactly that this property related to that original subdivision, which was 1886. And the sign itself talks about basically the property history. Who originally owned it was a guy named Joseph Taylor, who he married a woman named Lavinia, and they lived in Vienna, and then they moved to here. And they were actually the only Black family in Dunn Loring for a number of decades. And the school board approached them and purchased the property in 1938. And they actually continued to live on a small portion of the original property. If you look in that photograph there on the left, the little girl, you can see in the background that's one of like the only photographs of this house where the Taylors lived. And that was torn down sometime in the 50s when Mr. Taylor died. So I wanted to make sure that I told, the full history of this and actually give a bit of background to the Taylor family, because I feel like they really aren't known in this community. So they're highlighted there on the blue side. That way it also makes it pop a little bit so you can tell, that's the family history versus history. And also one fun fact is like I figured out whatever the color was for Fairfax County Public Schools. It's on their website, and that's what that blue is on there. So it does tie back to the school system.
The next slide, I think, following the presentation, we also have very additional. We included, I guess we were looking to submit some of the construction document sheets as well. If you go to the next slide, we have documentation of the existing site and which items are being salvaged for reinstallation. The Federal Works Agency plaque itself is going to be removed by FCPS and stored for reinstallation, so we're not leaving that portion of the contractor. If we go on to the next slide, we've been through this one. We could continue on. And one more. So we've included descriptions on salvaging and reinstallation of the columns, the side panels, wood trim, the extent of the brick that's being installed around the entrance is intended to match the width of the brick between the two windows that flank the existing entrance. The height of the brick is intended to correspond to how high the existing brick was installed up to the roof line. Because of the challenges that we face with the depth of the existing entrance, there are portions of which where we would have to, if you could go to the next slide. Where we would have to salvage only portions of the existing side paneling as well as the soffit panels and install a new light fixture to replace the existing one that's shown there. The brick that's being salvaged is not restricted to just this one area. We require that the contractor sufficient salvage brick from along that entire facade for installation. So we would be able to reinstall sufficient quantities of brick in good condition. And with that, I believe open it up to questions and comments.
Board members with questions and comments. Ms. Hammond.
Okay. I have comments about the storyboards, the informational panels. I don't think they should have the same title. They both read Dunn Loring Elementary School, 1939 to 1978. And it looks like the same image is used on both. I think since you found some good information about the site, perhaps one is about the site and the history of the site in Fairfax County. The other one is about the school. I think there's too much text. As much as I love architectural information, kids are going to be reading these in passing. I don't think they're going to be standing there for a long time. and reading all this text. As much as I love architectural history, I think one or two sentences could sum up the colonial revival movement in educational architecture. I think that just because you found a historic photograph doesn't mean necessarily it should be included. What is the photograph telling us? If we look at the website that the school put together, there's another image of the building from the 50s that clearly shows the new addition. It's not cropped. It's from 1958. So maybe, you have that corner, but maybe the other image is, hey, and this is the new large addition in its entirety. The auditorium's cool, but like maybe you could find some animated images of children occupying the space. Maybe newspapers or yearbooks would show that. I'm just thinking, even if the drama club was in that auditorium, that would be more animated and I think more interesting. I also am very curious about the context of this school within Fairfax County. What other schools were built at the same time? How many exist? When were they torn down? So I think I would do more graphics, less text, make it more, tell it more about the history of the educational architecture in Fairfax County and less about, I'm not even sure. It's really hard doing these signs. Has anyone ever done these signs? It is so hard because you have all this information and you want to distill it and you want to use simple language and you want your graphics, you find a graphic, you get so excited, you want to use it, but then someone's like, oh, don't use it. But you're like, but I found it and I was so excited. You have to really call and think about distilling it. You have maybe 4 minutes with someone standing there. And I think also the variety of images, like maybe one is this post-construction image from 1958 that the Fairfax school system kept on file. Maybe the other one is a candid of kids getting on the bus to kind of create a larger context instead of these frozen, stilled architectural images. So people can understand, well, how was this site really occupied now that it's gone? That was it.
Mr. Daniel, and then Mr. Plumbing.
So really excited to see this actually come to fruition because seeing it written in proffers, I couldn't believe it made it into proffers just personally, but that was exciting to see. I'm impressed that you were able to find a way to fit it in and put it into a position like that. I like that it's in a lobby space that you're going to have kids standing and walking up to it and exploring that space. That's really cool. It's impressive how big it is compared to a standard entranceway. So it's really going to be a feature. Previous workshop, me and Ms. Hammock were not aligned. Me and Ms. Hammock are completely aligned on this one.
Wow.
It's just too much text. I agree, especially for the interior plaque. I think because you're going to have kids looking at it, it's just so much to digest. And as a spouse of a Fairfax County Public School teacher, a humanities teacher, and a father of an elementary school student, if it's possible, I would encourage FCPS to do some outreach or even ask maybe one of their humanities teachers, like an AP US history teacher, to go, what do you guys think of this sign? What can we do here? Because then you've got some investment from the educators. Not to say you're not doing a good job with it, but having young people look at a sign and say, this is what we would see it as, because I think there could be more activity going on there. Even if it's just symbols and I agree, the colonial rival one, I love reading all about that, but 2 sentences,
Yeah.
that's probably all you need because the facade itself is doing all the speaking. It's the grandness of that. The only other one you asked about, the interpretive marker, is that dot just subjective in the big green square outside? Because I would make sure at least it's pulled forward towards the edge where you have the bus parking. If it's sitting in the middle of that green space, which I assume is a side entrance that's probably closed at most times when the school's operating, no one is going in that way. So no one will read that sign if it's too far back near the loading dock area. If it's pulled a little closer to the bus area where you may have more pedestrian traffic, I think that's a better space for a marker like that to be. But as you said, that dot was just kind of there. I would make sure it's closer to the bus parking area rather than closer to the loading dock, just because the way Fairfax County Public Schools works, you're not going into one of those entrances unless it's a very special situation. Yeah, that's mine. Otherwise, be excited to see the final product.
Mr. Plumpy and then Ms. Wong.
I think, I love what Ms. Hammock said is about, getting old pictures like yearbooks. I'll be honest with you, I'd love to see more yearbook pictures of what the life of the school inside was, as opposed to here's a facade that's frozen in time. That's just me. I like classic cars. I'm gonna do all the car pictures, all I can find. But however, there's so much activity because the school is the people that attended that and have graduated from that. So I'd really challenge you to go through yearbooks from year one through last year and see how a timeline inside. Don't do a timeline, but just here's this collage of pictures or a selected few that I'll tell you, those young kids going there, whatever, they're going to grab on those. Like, guys, my dad had that crew cut or what, but it's just something that would really want people to keep on reading those plaques and so forth. And maybe you have more plaques and only 3, or maybe 2 is plenty, whatever. And then also, is there, and where this marker that Mr. Daniel was talking about, is there a time capsule that you're going to bury in it or something like that? Do something with that. So if this was a historical school, now bury it, and 50 years from now, when they tear it down, they're going to have another kind. But think about that. Just thinking out loud.
There's a Facebook page of alums.
Oh, really?
Who are concerned about the demolition.
Yeah.
I mean, you could even do a call for images.
Yeah, I think that's cool.
Yeah, we would need permission from every single person in the image to print it.
Okay, well,
well,
maybe.
Yeah, public domain is 50 years, so if anything before that, we
Almost at the cusp. Okay, good. But I think it's cool. Okay, sorry.
I was just gonna say, I think the key thing is if a child or an adult is interacting with space, the hope is that they would then think that you got to have a picture, obviously, showing that original facade. That does the connection. But, oh, this was a school before it was this school. So I'm at the site of a previous school, and there's a little bit of history there. So it's a connection back to space. Because, I mean, the argument made for why could not build this into a school using the existing structure, I get it. So that's kind of what this was trying to salvage, was that connective space.
And I think also the organization that built the school, maybe a little history about that organization was, if you haven't done it already. I think the new, was it part of the new
Federal Works Agency?
Yeah, the works agency. Like, what is that? That maybe doesn't exist anymore.
Yeah, I think that's really interesting, like this,
Yeah.
the larger social educational movement,
Yes.
both nationally and within Fairfax County. And we talked about this when we first learned about the demolition, like, well, how many are there? And do they
Yeah,
even
I like
exist? And, maybe they look really similar. You could put in, I don't know, like, it looked just like this one that was around the corner that was demolished or something.
It's kindergarten, they can't read, right? Up to 6th grade. The only thing they are responding to is graphics.
Exactly.
I mean, they're playing their games and stuff.
My second grader is reading.
It's there.
I'd like to say.
Reading text on the phone.
Not the,
Oh, no, definitely. If you put that up here, he's not going to read that. I agree.
maybe that graphic artist, that's spraying the walls, maybe that person comes up with something spectacular that, because they're not gonna look at it. It's like mommy and daddy put that together. I mean, that's like, they're not gonna look at it unless it grabs them. You've got little kids, don't.
I think if she saw other kids in a building doing some things that she does now, I see what you're saying. I definitely think we all agree, like, more graphics, more variety of graphics, less text. And you could always make a scan this and go to a website and read all about it. What are those things called?
QR code.
40.
I think that they are bound very strictly by what the proffers is telling them to do. So keeping that in mind, there's limits to what they're going to be able to do, practically speaking. Sorry.
Ms. Wong.
Thank you. So, I understand that this is a tough job. It's almost like a retrofit. And when the first presentation come out, I look at all the floor plan, I feel like, oh, it's kind of like the park there in the lobby. But I really thank you for the drawing you produced. It's very honest drawing and showing everything around it. And I'm convinced that that's the right location for it with double height and everything. So I want to appreciate your work and say thank you to you. The other thing is that I also feel like with all these steps, this door there, it could be a graduation feature for kids taking photo with the door, like taking photo with the Santa.
So.
That's first pop into my head.
And that's part of why we tried to preserve some of that depth to the entrance so that you could interact with it. It wasn't just a door immediately right in your face surrounded by the columns, by the pediment. It wasn't just part of the wall. It was part of something that you can interact with. There's steps leading up to it.
It does.
There's a bit of depth to it, so you can actually walk up to the door, maybe not to the same depth as it currently is, but there is that additional dimension to it.
I was thinking, well, when I was thinking about all these things, I was thinking, oh, perhaps this door is intertwined with a display case, but I think just leave it there, and with all this very deep depths, it's the right way to do it. And the drawing really honestly documented everything. So thank you.
Going back to the comments regarding the text versus graphics, should we be considering that one of the exhibits is interior to the building and will be primarily for students and teachers to see, while the other is out on site for the surrounding community? And that one could perhaps have more information on the site, the property, similar to what's here, but not necessarily.
I mean, that's a fair point, and I like that you did a more land look in that one. I think that's a clever way of positioning it.
I still think it needs more graphic. Look at, when I don't know if the National Park Service is still making wayside panels, but if we look at some that were approved, like, I think there is still more graphic.
I'm just thinking more about like, you look at historical markers outside, they're almost all text. If you think about that.
But no one reads.
So
Not-
Fairfax County Park Authority does interpretive waysides.
Yeah, wayside.
First off, we have a theme that unifies the information that is being presented. And we tried for 100 words at an 8th grade reading level for a general public sign. That's for nature interpretation. For historical interpretation, we have discovered that try as hard as we can. 100 words is rare, but we can get it into 100 words. So we like 150 is more what we focus, on trying to get. And that 8th grade reading level is really a difficult thing to try to meet, or 6th grade reading level or 5th grade reading level, because what happens is that in order to get your content at that level, you expand the number of words and the number of sentences. So it actually gets longer. And so you're kind of constantly seesawing back and forth, trying to find the right balance. But graphics, interactives, there are lots of fun interactive signs. There are signs where you can make books, pages on the. So there's a lot of fun things.
Yeah, I think the problem is we're starting to get outside the proffers a little bit on some of the things.
The
we're
proffers,
suggesting.
how restricted.
They need to do it so basically I don't want to read it verbatim, but the interpretive historical exhibit must be installed inside the school. They must also find an interpretive wayside marker or historical county marker to be located on the site to commemorate the family. It talks about text design, final location of markers will be determined in collaboration with the Providence District Supervisor's Office, Heritage Resources Branch, so Mary Catherine over there, and the History Commission. So, I don't know if you guys have talked to the History Commission yet. So I was going to say, if there were a group that had far more comments on the meat of this, but I don't think there's it's a marker. And I don't want to speak for you, but I think I'm just hearing simpler would be better. and more graphics, the more you can, but it sounded like you were gonna say there are some limitations you're already operating under.
Yeah, so, hi, I'm Kim Gaither. I'm a principal at the EHT Traceries. First of all, we do, this is to NPS standards, so that does allow for way more text. I understand if you guys want less text, we can certainly cut that down, and go with heavier images or larger images. It was very hard for the plaque about the family to find images. There are no images of this gentleman. There's no images of his family. There's no images of his children that we know of that are in the public domain. So we are limited to maps and a plot and the one picture we have of his house. And so that's why there's yet another picture of the school there. I don't know if you think it's appropriate to put in another map. We can certainly try and think outside the box, but that is kind of why we just have another picture of the school in there. We were very limited into finding images. And not only, it's not just images, it's images that have a resolution that is high enough to qualify for printing. But lady over here said about newspaper, or I don't remember who said it, a lot of times the newspaper photos are far too grainy to be put into such a big plaque. And so when we get to the printers, they say, we can do it, but it's gonna look like you put a blurry picture in the photo. We had that problem with like yearbook newspaper photos all the time. But I think what I'm hearing from you guys is kind of go back, be a little bit more visual, definitely cut out wording, make it more of an elementary school level exercise and not necessarily an NPS level exercise. And then we can meet with the history board and kind of find.
Yeah, they may tell you exactly the opposite. So.
I was gonna say, I think that, I think especially with the interior one, maybe making that more, because that's the one the kids are gonna interact with, in my opinion, right? Probably less so. Okay, yes, okay, sorry. I just wanted to make that point. Mr. Burns.
Yes, I agree. More graphics, less text. I remember writing for the Library of Congress to put on their website. And they said I wrote with jargon and this, that, and the other thing. And I said, what do you want, an 8th grade reading level? And they said, no, 3rd. So I get where you're going with all this. And I agree that we're dealing with the short attention span. And you got to grab somebody, get them the message, and then they move on. So that's the key thing. The wayside, is this kind of like the VDOT signs? You know, like the post with the shield and the text on it.
This one is designed based on the what you see in a National Park Service signs. So it'd be 3x2 with either 2 posts or 1 post.
Okay.
And you kind of like stand and look at them.
Yeah. That's all well and good, but those things fade over time and such. But anyway, I was thinking to commemorate the family, right? Use a sign that's like the VDOT signs, right? And put it, you know where the house was, so put it near where the house was. Because you're celebrating the family.
I think we could do that, but that is at a location that not many people would go.
Well, the whole idea, it's like a VDOT sign, so it's gonna be close to the right of way and it'll be accessible by the side, from the sidewalk.
Does that meet the proffers?
Pardon?
So that would be a roadside, are you talking about a county roadside marker?
Or VDOT or.
They are under the proffer is install a interpretive wayside marker or historical county marker. It says for, so.
But if it's for the family.
But that is the one for the family it's
We can
speaking
look
of.
into those, you know, what those requirements are, like, and discuss with, obviously, Fairfax County Public Schools.
I'm the chair of the marker committee.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. That's my
Thank you.
comments.
I think we've given a lot of feedback,
Yeah.
as we tend to do. So thank you very much. We very much appreciate you both providing us with the information and presenting tonight. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Thank you very much for
your time.
All right. That brings us into our final workshop session, which is ARB WK 2026 MV 00007, the Mount Vernon Country Club Special Exception. The applicant proposing changes to existing golf course or country club. Ms. Taylor, you. Thank you for your patience.
No, thank you. Thank you for staying and hearing our presentation. Kathy Taylor from the Law Firm of Walsh Pucci. I represent the applicant, in this case, Mount Vernon Country Club. And again, I know it's late in the evening, but I appreciate everyone's time and attention to this application. We are very early on, at least in the development process. We have filed a special exception amendment application. Do you have the certification? Oh,
Yeah, this is the beginning of it, but there you go.
Oh, you can go. Yeah, you can start there. So we are early on in the development review process. We have filed a special exception amendment application. Part of that is we do have a portion of our site in the HOD, in the Woodlawn Historic Overlay District. And so that is why we are here before you this evening. And we can go to the next slide. We do have our architect, our design team, our civil engineer, and then representatives from the Mount Vernon Country Club. So if you do have questions, we're happy to answer that collectively. So you can see here in red is the site. It is located at 5111 Old Mill Road. It's actually comprised of 4 parcels. And in totality, the total site area is about a little under 128 acres. We are zoned to the R2. There are significant portions of the site that are in resource protection area. There's also a 100-year floodplain where Doe Creek runs through the golf course. It is primarily surrounded, you can see, by residential uses with Gristmill Park to its southwest. So it is developed today with the Mount Vernon Country Club, which was established in the early 1960s. That includes the 18-hole golf course, a clubhouse, pool facilities, a maintenance facility, pump house, and other facilities associated with a golf course and country club use. If we jump to the next slide. So you can see here, this is the Woodlawn Historic Overlay District. And then we have provided where the actual boundaries of the district. And then you can see here, this portion is what you see here in this dark green. So that's just showing you context of how much of the site is actually located in the HOD. But we do have, that's fine, but we do have structures that are proposed in that area and golf course improvements, which is why we're here this evening. And you can jump. I won't go through all of this, but I just show this to say that this site is actually governed originally by a special permit. And then over the years, there would be additional special permits, amendments, and then eventually there would be a special permit and a special exception. The special exception was specifically for environmental fill in the floodplain, environmental improvements. And then eventually the special permit would get integrated into the special exception. And so today we have filed a special exception amendment that was accepted in February 25 of 2026. And you can see there the different types of improvements. It includes improving the pool facilities, constructing a new maintenance facility. There's certain golf course improvements, an increase in height in the containment netting structure, and then also environmental improvements that would require fill in a floodplain. So our planning commission public hearing is set for October 7th, 2026. And then you can jump to the next slide. So what is under the purview of the ARB? So we do have golf course improvements, as I've mentioned, that includes enhancing an existing driving range and constructing a new containment netting, which we've already mentioned. We are modifying tee boxes, fairways, bunkers, and greens, and improving some grading and drainage. And then also part of that, with those improvements, we would actually adjust the cart path layout. So that you can see, number 1 is actually pertaining to the new containment netting. That's the location of where it would be. This entire area here is actually the existing driving range, and then the containment netting, which we'll show in another slide, is where that would be located. And then number 2 identifies the new maintenance facility. So right now, number 2 to the this portion here is where the existing maintenance facility is located. This is actually not in the HOD. The HOD kind of runs around this area. However, this is the existing location, and then we'll be moving the new maintenance facility to this portion, which is partially in the historic overlay district. We can go to the next slide. So the next few images are just showing the view shed. So up in that top
left is where the woodlawn plantation is located. And then we've just kind of identified what the view shed would be. This is the existing pool that's getting improved, but that again is not in the HOD. And then you can see the location of the new proposed maintenance facility. Next slide. Again, that just is another view. You can see the woodlawn plantation and then where the new facilities, improved facilities would be on the Mount Vernon Country Club. And you can clearly see the intervening uses, the homes, the densification in between those. And the next slide, I believe, is just another view shed. And again, I think, as you can see, there would be very limited visibility of this part of the HOD from the woodlawn plantation grounds. Notwithstanding all the new structures that are being proposed would remain subordinate in size to ensure that the preservation of the visual dominance and aesthetic view of woodlawn would not be impacted in any way. So if we jump to the next slide. So again, this is just that view again. The red outline is the HOD core boundary. The orange is the actual HOD boundary overall. And then again, you can see the small portion that's located in the HOD of the improvements that we are making. If you recall the slide with the 1 and the 2, you can see the approximate location where that containment netting would be. And it's kind of a V shape. And then the little box, the yellow box, is the approximate site for the maintenance, new maintenance facility. So again, just kind of giving context. So this is the slide that pertains to that containment netting. So this slide here, there's actually containment netting that's on the golf course today, and that surrounds the pool area. This is where the pool is. And due to improvements that the golf course has made in recent years, that this netting is actually not needed anymore. So with these new improvements, they will be taking that down. But we're just showing that to kind of provide image of what the new containment netting, where we're putting it, what it would look like. I believe it's 50-foot wooden poles, right, Daniel? So they would be 50-foot wooden poles and then the netting in between. And that's, I think, it would be lower than that. I think the netting is about 43 feet. So you can see here, this is it's like a V shape where that netting would go along Old Mill Road. These images are showing there is existing vegetation all around today. And so these images of that vegetation that would remain preserved. And in reality, with the containment netting, that from what I understand is that because of that existing vegetated buffer to be preserved and the considerable distance from Old Mill Road between this proposed netting, that already mitigates any visibility and safety impacts. So really the purpose of putting the netting today is to protect people that are on the golf course. That might be, and it's not really for errant balls going beyond across Old Mill Road and any residential. It would be for the safety of anyone that's on the golf course that would be playing. So if you go to the next slide. So we have a lot more slides on the actual maintenance facility. Again, just showing context of where it's going to be located, moving from the portion that's inside into the closer to Old Mill Road. So we can actually go to the next slide. The existing maintenance facility today was built back in the 1990s. It is located right in the middle of the golf course. And it's actually right up against RPA and 100-year floodplain. So that line kind of runs this way, the RPA and the 100-year flood. So you can kind of see that maintenance facility borders right up against it. And so because of that, it has really limited the ability for the club to expand that maintenance facility. And there's often conflict because of its location right in the middle of the golf course. There's often conflict with the maintenance staff and golfers and golf activity. And in addition, again, they just can't enlarge it, as you can imagine, to keep or upkeep and maintain a 128-acre golf course does require a bit of equipment. So to improve safety and accommodate the need for a larger and enhanced area, the applicant is proposing to relocate that area away from golf course traffic and in a location that is outside of the RPA and the floodplain. But a portion of that, as we mentioned, would be in the HOD. So I believe the next few slides just kind of show existing image of what that main facility looks like today. And if you want to go to the next slide. This is sort of a zoomed image of the new area where we would be locating it. Today, the portions above here are already used as sort of stockpile for maintenance maintenance materials. And so the new facility would be proximate to that. Jump to the next slide. These are just views. Actually, if you go back to the other, just for context, the views on the next slide are showing what the views would be if you were looking in that area. So we can go to that next one. So those would be the views. Again, these are just helpful to show the existing vegetated buffers that already exist today within the neighborhood abutting this new maintenance area, as well as along Old Mill Road frontage. But majority of this will be preserved and untouched. So if we go to the next slide, I'm going to invite our architect to come up and kind of go through the remainder of the slides. But very quickly, the new maintenance facility would include a one-story maintenance building, primarily utilized again for landscape equipment, but there would also be administrative offices, break rooms, and staff locker rooms in here. And I would highlight the dense vegetated buffers that will be planted around the new maintenance facility in combination with the preservation of a lot of the existing mature vegetation there today. And the intent of that obviously is to screen the use in this building from residential homes across from Old Mill Road. So the closest this maintenance facility today would be set back at least 61 feet from the frontage, and there is a 35-foot vegetated buffer at a minimum that would separate the use. There's also a new fence. You can see where we've highlighted the wood fence. There will be a new fence that would go around, as well as these are new trees that would be planted to also go around, and that would obviously add to mitigate the visual appearance of the building. And then finally, to create, we would be creating a designated entrance for maintenance use only, and that would decentralize traffic on Old Mill Road. You can see that entrance here. That would be utilized only by maintenance employees, and then there would be an access control gate that would be part of that new access way as well. And even with this new entrance, as I've mentioned, most of the existing vegetation and trees from the previous slides would remain. Because of the new entrance, we would be removing trees in that location, but otherwise, most of the trees are meant to be preserved. And I will pause on this slide, but I'll turn it over to our architect.
Thank you. She need my name, yeah.
Yes,
Yeah,
please.
Mike Ernst, Rust Orling Architecture. Thank you. You can just jump to the next slide. And I think, so this is a utilitarian building, and it's intended as such, and that's what we're drawing from. There are some historic buildings close, but not that you can see. They all contain the gabled roof. They have different types of siding, but this is sort of where we're starting. The next slide, there's just sample images. We're looking more along these lines. We're metal siding to emulate sort of a board and batten look, metal panels, metal roof, standing to seam, single story structure. The ridge is less than 35 feet tall. Metal panel siding, bearing height's 18 feet. That's intended and required for the maintenance part of the facility. They do have lifts in there. They're maintaining all of the equipment, mowers, carts, and everything in between in there. Lots of sectional garage doors. We're storing a lot of equipment. Half of the storage is conditioned because the equipment is very sensitive to temperature fluctuations. They don't want to have to get in there and recalibrate everything all of the time. And then another half of the space is purely just covered and protected because there is significant financial investment. That's the word I'm looking for. Thank you. Significant investment in a lot of the equipment that they have, so they want to protect it and make sure it runs for as long as they possibly can. So this is kind of where we're starting. It's gabled roof, overhangs on the front and the back, just to give a little bit of a shadow line. You know, the doors will be recessed back to have a little bit of a shadow line. So, and you know, just trying to break up the facade. You have some downspouts that'll help to break that up. The building, as you can see on the top rights, that 112-foot elevation is the one that's facing Old Mill Road. Has that particular portion of the plan is where the office space is going to be. So it's the quiet side, and the maintenance bay, again, the quiet side. Then on the long faces, you know, it's going to go about 128 feet deep, is, you know, into the golf course itself. You can go to the next slide. You know, this is, again, the metal panel system, the panel ribs on the right-hand side, the roof profile on the left. It's, you know, pretty standard stuff. Next slide. And then back to the screening. We've sort of been playing around with just trying to show how much vegetation and what you're actually going to be able to see. The picture on the right is looking up that driveway. Again, it's a simple structure, but there's a lot of vegetation here. It's a very, very highly screened from the street. And then the two images on their left are intended to sort of be looking, you know, the two directions up and down Old Mill Road. Again, lots of trees and shrubs going in there. So in terms of a visual impact, we're doing everything we can to reduce that on the neighbors and the environment and everything. Last slide, maybe there's one more, or is that it? Yeah, that's the end.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Questions and comments from board members? Mr. Daniel.
Thank you for a fantastic presentation. Sight lines and stuff, really great. So it's a special exception, so we're going to give a recommendation when it comes back in.
It'll come in for a recommendation for the site plan aspect, but any of the construction
Okay,
as a permit,
that was-
like this maintenance building.
You read my,
My understanding is you can comment on the entire site plan because a portion of it's in the HOD, but for the actual building permit, it will just be whatever's within.
which would be at least a portion that looks like it's a maintenance facility.
Right, that's the other thing.
And
And the containment fencing.
yeah.
Yeah, okay. That was I just wanted to sort that out for when you do come back.
Can I make a comment real quick on that? So, obviously, this is a lot of improvements that are going on here. We have the pool facilities, which we didn't go into because that's not in the HOD. And then we have the maintenance facility, and then we have all the golf course. There's a number of golf course improvements that kind of span the entire. My understanding is we cannot do all of that at one time because of funding. They just don't have the money.
Sure.
And so there will be, our civil engineers here, but from what I understand is they'll do the pool facilities first, correct? That's sort of their priority, is to improve the pool facilities, and that will be its own site plan. But then we will come back specifically with the maintenance facility in that area. So I believe at that point is, since that's the portion that's in the HOD, we would come for that. Because the site plan with the pool facilities would be separate whenever we would come in with the maintenance facility.
Is the existing maintenance area in the HOD?
No.
Okay. Okay, what's going on there?
Yeah, and that's what I wanted to sort out. So the special exception, we would be giving a recommendation.
The line on the HOD kind of cuts the building in.
Oh, yeah, good. It's just a nice little
Can I
jag.
take the HOD area to build this? I mean.
Unfortunately, there's environmental constraints. Like
Right.
there's also a lot of environmental.
As somebody who golfs, the maintenance shed at the perimeter of the golf course is very common. So I think that was a consideration, and the maintenance shed in the middle of the golf course.
It's not.
I don't know if I've ever seen that
It's
before.
not ideal.
It's
Yeah, you
not
have cars, vehicles, like maintenance vehicles that are cutting through the golf.
Got a little Caddyshack scenario going on right there. Yeah, that's right. I was old enough now. Now, anyways, no, I think conceptually it sounds fine. And given the location where it is in the HOD, personally, for me, I don't see many major concerns, even with the proposed design you're looking at, given its relationship. The only thing that came to my mind, because she's not here, is I was thinking of our archaeologist.
Yeah,
And I would just ask that, I'm certain she would ask about
yeah.
intent. Obviously I know that building a golf course is highly destructive, so the likelihood is probably low, but working with Fairfax County Park Authority and what might happen there, especially with the new construction.
Yeah, and I did, if you, our narrative, I did address some of those, because I knew the archaeological person would probably ask about the resources. From what I understand, where we are locating this new maintenance facility is not near any archaeological resources. The only thing that our civil engineer had mentioned was, well, we're taking up the trees on that one area that is technically new disturbance, but generally almost all of our improvements are on previously disturbed areas already. So we're not really disturbing any new areas, and we are very much staying out of any disturbed vegetated areas. We're trying to not,
I would just be very ready for when you come
Yeah,
back, because Ms. Mango will be there, I'm certain, and she will ask it.
I have a question.
Ms. Hammack, and then Mr. Burns.
You're tearing down two structures and you're building one much larger one.
12 o'clock.
What, did you consider, because you did mention that there's like offices, did you consider breaking up the mats and building two separate structures? Does that not work with the programmatic needs?
Correct.
Wow.
There you go.
I should deserve that. I'm married to an engineer, okay?
Mr. Burns, and then Mr. Plumpy.
Yes, is the site for the new maintenance facility, is that across the road from the housing development that's built in the old Fairfax water site? Or is that further down the road?
There are homes
Yeah, there's a
across the
neighborhood.
street.
Fairly recently built?
Rosemary Lena Way.
It just goes in and it's a little cul-de-sac. There's not
Yes.
much to all that.
There's a picture here.
Yeah, I think that was a Fairfax water site.
Yeah, Rosemary, go back. There you go.
Yeah.
I think that property that was actually owned by Mount Vernon Country Club that was sold to a developer. So I don't believe it.
That's okay. So I've mislocated. Okay. All right. This is so far removed from Woodlawn that, even your 50-foot poles, if they were neon, I know that you would see them. So I'm not terribly concerned about the view shed from Woodlawn. But my concerns are more about the things you said you were going to do to the land. We're talking about filling in floodplain and, changing the grade. And when you mess with a golf course, you move a lot of dirt. Ms. Magnum's concerns aside, and when you're in a resource protection area and in a floodplain and you start moving a lot of dirt, that's when I get concerned about what you're going to do. And so if we have a recommendation that we might make, it would be, what I would like to know what the impact on the resource protection area and the floodplains actually is. You just said you're going to do it, but.
Yeah. No, and I can appreciate that. So
Yeah.
I didn't go too much into detail because it gets much into the weeds, but we do have our civil engineer here. But one of our special exception amendment requests is to fill in the floodplain. And part of that, we have to do a floodplain study. We have to do a water impact quality analysis. There is a myriad of environmental studies that we have preliminarily already conducted and have submitted to Fairfax County. So we are going to be working very closely with LDS and those environmental groups to make sure that we are not impacting any upstream, downstream drainage. I don't know if I'm using the correct words.
Does the county's large sewer go through your property? I mean, they have that enormous project on the next stream upriver in the last couple of
There
years.
is a sewer line crossing the property, but we are not moving or touching any of that.
No, okay, so that, in other words, what I'm getting at ultimately is that this is already fairly well disturbed land.
Yes. Oh, yes.
In
Very
terms
much so.
of shallow archaeological stuff, I
And we
doubt
are
that you
only
would find much.
any of the work that we're doing with these golf course improvements is disturbing what's already been disturbed.
Yeah,
So
okay,
we are
all
not
right.
doing any new disturbance.
Okay, so let me hop to the building then. again, I think you're probably not, I don't have any concerns about the visibility from Woodland Plantation House, but is within the boundary of the HOD as the County Board of Supervisors defined it. I noticed the renderings, I didn't see any ventilation in the gables. I didn't see any skylights. So is that true? There's no ventilation on the roof. There's no skylights.
The short answer is we're not that far yet. This is, again, our first presentation to you. We wanted to just get the sort of the general materials, the general form, the general scale of the project.
Okay, and you said that.
Yes, the mechanical system, there will be mechanical systems for.
On the roof?
To serve. If I have to put them on the roof, I think maybe, but if I can find other ways to get them on the ground, I would prefer that.
As I would.
Yeah.
Okay. Any geothermal as part of this?
Yeah.
Okay, and then you said that the gable was, ridge was 35 feet?
Less than 35 feet, just
Less
slightly.
Okay,
just
all
slightly.
right. And then what are the perimeter wall heights?
Roughly 18.
Okay, so even so, you said it was a one-story building, yeah, okay, but it's a tall one-story building. And then it's gable to the street from your renderings and such?
Yes.
Okay.
The upper left-hand corner image is generally the street-facing facade.
Okay, so the driveway would come into the right end of that?
Yeah, the driveway comes in on the right-hand side, also cuts across the front of it and goes back. I mean, basically, we put the building in the center of the donut, accessible on all four sides.
Okay, okay. Thank you. Those are my questions.
Mr. Plumpy.
Sure. As a landscape architect on the board, site issues I'm going to talk about. It'd be great next time if we do a preliminary grading plan from the civil, for the proposed building location.
Sure.
And also, tree movements for types of vehicles to service this thing. I assume that you're gonna have a semi truck once in a while delivering fertilizers, golf carts and so forth. So can they make that donut easily?
Correct.
And yes, they can.
I believe so.
Yeah.
I think they checked it.
Okay, so you did turning movements already. It'd be good to show that diagram if you don't mind next time. And also, any way that you can get vegetation that is mature along the roadway there that's across, that buffers the
Residential.
the residential. So it's screened because the 35-foot building is like a 3-story building, in my opinion. I know you say it's a 1-story, whatever.
Yeah, I could ask a quick follow-up.
Go right ahead.
In your renderings and all, you showed the foliage and all.
Sure.
Is that after 10 years, after 5 years, 10 years?
I think that
Good question,
that was
yes.
probably, if we were considering it the full grown.
Okay, so
But-
that's
25 years.
But if you go back, we are, the whole plan, go one more, you just skip it. There is vegetation there already. I mean, stop right
Oh, the
there.
next, if you go to the next one.
But you can see a lot of this vegetation, especially the stuff that's right up against the street. We're gonna try to maintain all of that during construction and keep that and enhance that and add to that. So there's already stuff there.
Right,
Just-
if you go to the next one, the next
The photograph.
slide,
Yeah,
so
on the
the
right.
one on the, left.
The
oh,
picture
sorry,
on the right.
Right.
Yeah. So that's existing vegetation
Yeah.
that,
Yeah.
other than the entrance, where because we have to take out trees, to put it in the
Keep
actual.
in mind is most of that is deciduous, it looks like in the picture, and I'm sure there's a lot of invasive species in there that you probably want to clean out. So my recommendation is you're gonna have some extra soil hanging around, right? When you do this thing, to do your BMP and everything, maybe you selectively save a few, but actually construct a berm of some sort to increase the height of the proposed vegetation immediately upon installation, because you have a 35-foot zone that is a buffer. Maybe it's a 3-to-1 slope, feet, so you're up to 15 feet or and then maybe 10 feet high berm, you landscape, and then that 35 feet will kind of come down. Just thinking out loud. And also, as you heard on our other thing with the paddleball here, which is good, but we do have lights. I think lighting is very important here, so that you have a lighting plan that shows where your spillover light and so forth, especially how it affects the neighbors across the street. That's all I'm saying.
Sorry, to that point, Daniel, what is the topography? Because it's not
Yeah.
flat here. You know what the
Yeah,
topography is?
it's not flat, so it does have a little bit of an incline, so.
So what's high, what's low existing on that drawing?
Yeah,
Is the building?
this is,
lower or
no, this is high. This area right here is the high point. This is their sort of, there's a
The sky
natural hill
Yeah.
and mile that they've added, vegetation that's just decomposing up in there. So that's kind of here, and then it comes down. You have the tee boxes. This is the 11th hole, correct? Correct. So the tee box is looking out to 11, and this does have some grade across it.
So it goes towards the road.
Yeah, it goes towards the road. So to your point, if we could, come into this area from the property line to the edge of the road and just get an up down,
Something
then
better than nothing.
we can, if we're gonna have to redo that,
Yeah, we can evaluate.
we can evaluate that.
Yeah, we'll look at
That's
that.
good. Thank you so much.
That brings us into presentations. I am going to move that the Fairfax Architectural Review Board go into closed session pursuant to Virginia Code Section 2.2-371.1A08 or A8 for the purpose of consultation with its legal counsel regarding specific legal matters requiring the provision of legal advice by such counsel. The subject matter to be consulted upon are specific factual questions regarding the proper interpretation of the Virginia Freedom of Information Act and record retention as it relates to the records and meetings of the Fairfax County Architectural Review Board.
Seconded.
Seconded by Mr. Daniel. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Any abstentions? The motion carries. The Architectural Review Board will be in closed session. In accordance with Virginia Code Section 2.2-371, I move that the members certify that, to the best of each member's knowledge, only public business matters lawfully exempted from open meeting requirements under the Virginia Freedom of Information Act, and only such public business matters as were identified in the motion by which the closed meeting was convened were consulted upon, heard, discussed, or considered in the closed session meeting by the Fairfax County Architectural Review Board. Is there a second? Mr. Daniel seconds. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions, that motion carries. I would like to just be super efficient. Board and staff items, review of previous month's minutes from March 12, 2026. Does anyone have an issue with the minutes? If they don't, I'd entertain a motion. Mr. Daniel.
Mr. Chairman, I move the ARB approve the March 12, 2026 meeting minutes and pay the clerk, Ryan Johnson.
Is there a second?
Second.
Mr. Burns seconds. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Any abstentions? That motion carries. Treasurer's report, our balance is $31,491.88 as of March 27 of this year. Administrative items, Lake Ann site visit. Mary Catherine, anything to add to that?
The only thing is the date that had worked most for everyone was next Thursday between 4 and 6 p.m. Since advertising that date to everyone, I've gotten a few folks who have said they can no longer attend. So I just kind of want to take a quick poll to see, do we have enough people to keep it that day, or do we need to change the day time?
I'd have to leave by like 5:30 or so.
I'll be there.
I now have to coach basketball
Okay.
practice Thursdays at 6.
So we have 4. Mr. Kalinsky told me he cannot attend, so satisfactory for you at 4 p.m.
Okay.
Sorry,
Yeah.
my husband's traveling, so I'm.
Okay.
Okay.
Unless you'd rather.
I'll bring my
do the time
kids.
before 4 p.m. That way
I think
you-
No, I'd rather do it at 4.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay.
Yep.
I'll send out a reminder email with the exact location of where we can
16.
convene. And it will be advertised as a public meeting.
Okay. Thank you.
So you know.
All right, discussions, updates, reports. We do not have any correspondence and announcements. We do not have any old business. Update on public notification for new submission deadlines. Mary Catherine.
Yes, I wanted to alert you, we have updated our website now, so the submission deadline dates are changed now, so applicants are aware. We also have a banner on the ARB pages. We are no longer planning to do USPS mailers though to residents, due to budgetary
That's fine.
issues, so,
Okay.
that's okay.
Before we get into the new business items, I have one. I have kind of executively been deciding, along with Chris and Mary Catherine, about whether to hold one meeting or two meetings. It seems we are very feedback intensive in these workshop sessions. And so does anybody disagree with my analysis that we'd rather do one meeting like tonight, which is longer, or are people in favor of coming back on Monday when I would evaluate that there may be a longer meeting, especially I think when it's workshop sessions? I don't want to make that decision by myself and have people be upset.
I now have, well, I guess it's better to do one long meeting for me on Thursday.
Okay.
I'd have to agree, yes.
Yeah.
Me too.
Long
Okay.
meeting.
Long meeting, great. All right, good. Then we're perfect.
It saves on gas. It's more sustainable.
There we go.
Oh, there we go.
Hey, I don't mind. I just don't want to be making that decision by myself. I'd rather get feedback. Okay, new business. We need to readopt the ARB remote participation policy. Is there a motion? Mr. Daniel.
Mr. Chairman, I move the ARB approves the readoption of the ARB policy for remote participation of
Is
members.
there a second?
Second.
I saw Mr. Plumpy first. All those in favor? Aye. All those opposed? Any
I have a
yes.
question. So it allowed for us to have two that we're not associated,
Personal.
and so they're allowing that now, because I didn't think could do that,
I'm sorry.
too.
To count toward quorum or? as
Well,
well?
just-
No, for the remote.
That's not for illness.
Oh,
Yeah,
or
yes, that's always been in there.
Yeah, yeah.
So
it's
we
been
could
in there.
have 5 remote and only.
But we've always asked
Could have split up your
why,
trip to
and you
Florida.
could say personal or medical. I think most
But that
times.
doesn't count for form.
No, if it's,
If it's just, I have something else going on,
Yeah.
I can't make it, no.
Yeah.
If it was a medical or disability issue caring for a family member,
Gotcha.
you would count toward.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so we have a motion, we have a second. Any further discussion? Okay, all those in favor? Aye. All those opposed? Any abstentions? That motion carries. We need to consider an expenditure of up to $300 for the purchase of laser pointers. That would be less than 1% of
What
our
are they
current.
for? What's laser
Why
pointers
do we
for?
need laser pointers?
because they don't show on the screen.
I think laser pointers are great instead of people walking up to there and
Yeah.
pointing to something and I'm not exactly sure
Do
what
they
they're pointing
actually
to.
Make sure
work
that
on
they
that
work
thing?
on the screen.
I thought they did.
Right, we'd have to confirm that one would work. I think they make them. And,
Okay.
I mean, I was envisioning one for the applicant and then one for each one of you, so you can also reference.
No.
We just passed on
I
that.
don't trust myself with that.
No,
Just don't stare at.
I think we should buy. But that's me, I am
You
one
like-
person.
He's Mr. Gadget. There he
You
is.
have to get the motion before you can have the
I'd
discussion.
rather have snacks.
Oh, yeah, we don't even have one.
Yes,
That's right.
I'm gonna decline. Mr. Burns has a motion, I think.
Okay.
Mr. Burns.
I move that the ARB approve an expenditure of up to $300 for the purchase of laser pointers.
Is there a second?
Can I make it friendly?
Second.
Well, we need a second. before we can
Second,
make a
there you go.
vote. Second by Mr. Daniel. Yes, you can.
If we could also have an equal amount of $300 for snacks for.
I do not accept that.
No, because then Mary Catherine has to manage snacks, so I was, it's fine.
So discussion.
Yes.
My experience is that laser pointers don't work on television screens. They work on projected images on a reflective, like movie
They
screen.
probably make a gadget for.
It's probably $6,000.
Yeah.
You get a dowel, it's about yay long and has a rubber tip on it.
A 10-foot pole? What are we, delving in dungeons?
we'll get an extendable.
And you would point on your
Yeah, like some
blackboard.
of the old Dunlop school used to have.
Call the question, Mr. Chairman.
Yeah,
Okay, any further discussion? Sorry, I was trying to Google and find out. an
they
answer.
do make them.
I just think having one for the applicant makes sense.
That's fine.
I don't think you need to buy one for every ARB member. I think we could pass them around if we really needed to, or maybe a few. I don't,
Keychain one.
For 300, you can buy
Buy a nice
a
one.
lot.
I don't, well, okay, but I just,
It depends on the.
I think keeping in mind costs, the applicant having one and at least having
$40.
a limited amount for board
That's
members
fine.
to
I'd
use.
rather have a laptop.
$40 for a TV, LED, LCD screen.
We all have carried a balance most years, I'm told.
Yes,
That's it.
Yeah, Mary Catherine is saying, and I tend to agree, we have plenty of money.
All right. Mr. Burns is
All
calling.
right, all those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Any abstentions? That motion carries. I have nothing else.
I
On
have
the-
one question.
Oh.
Yes.
If Mary Catherine can see it in her schedule, can we as the ARB foot the bill for her to have 2 tickets to the Holland Hills tour of homes?
Mary Catherine had 2 tickets?
Yeah,
Did you?
I've got 2 tickets that I'm not gonna use, and I'd like y'all to buy them from me to give to them.
What?
Wow.
Charlie?
I don't know that, well, I don't know that
Yes.
staff can take financial.
I think it's like a gift.
Oh, from our budget?
If it's a gift, is it a professional training?
What if you?
I think it's professional training.
I think you should just get reimbursed from the county's budget for that, not even from our budget, just
I know they won't.
They won't do
They
it.
won't do
We
it.
have no
Well,
money
then
for,
can't we buy her a gift?
How much do they cost?
$136.
Can we just take the whole
piece?
board and make it a
That
meeting?
is a lot of money.
I haven't done it yet either.
Maybe we could look into that, Mary Catherine?
Well, three of
see,
us
I
come and
think
call a
that
meeting there.
I need to confirm all of this because this is something I haven't prepared
Yeah.
research, but I do think that you can use the money to pay for the board members for training.
Oh,
I
that's
am
fantastic.
fairly certain.
I'll go to the ASLA convention for $2,000 or something.
For staff, I don't know. That's a question that's
So
never.
why don't we
been
pay
raised.
for your training for the tickets?
You
And
just
then,
hand them to her.
well, I wasn't gonna say that.
I can't
Oh,
take
but it
a
was
gift.
We
wrong.
don't know yet if she can go, so we'll see.
Staff can get professional training covered by friends groups in the park. So those are donation funds.
Well, I don't think we need to make a motion tonight
Yeah.
because we
Okay.
could always reimburse Kay for that at a later time if we decide to do
I'll
so.
do clarification and
Okay.
do keep that in mind.
The snacks will
Training for
work
each of
though.
you.
We can't buy ourselves food
I would,
or have a party or something like that.
we could always do snacks and then, yeah, all right.
Never.
Motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed, any abstentions?
Aye.
We are adjourned.